Welcome to this edition or this month's edition of Coffee with the Mayor. I am Trustee Edward Steve. It's good to see everybody. So give yourself a round of applause for coming out this morning. Taking time out your schedule to come to Coffee with the Mayor to get the vital information that's given out here. Before we start, I want to introduce the elected officials that are here. We have Trustee Tammy Brown in the back. We got trustee from the library, Louise Copeland. And when are the library board meetings? Fourth Monday of every month at 7 o'clock. And they remodeled the whole new library, so you should go over there and check it out.
Come out and just see how we have used your money wisely. Yes. We would like for you to come out. If you have children, if you have grandchildren, come out for yourself. Reading is fundamental. That's what they say. And we would just like for you to come out and just look around. Another thing, if there's a program that you would like, you should have never given me this mic. If there's a program that you would like to have implemented in the library, there's a suggestion box right in the front. And whatever you would like to see done, this is your library. This isn't our library. This is your library, and we would like for you to be happy. Come out, get a book, get in the lounge area. Isn't that right, Ms. Flanagan? Come there and enjoy your library. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Copeland. Also, we have State Rep Will Davis here with us today. We have Attorney Murphy, the village attorney, here with us today. And we also have our village mayor, Mayor Riley H. Rogers. And then we have the village administrator, Liz Scott, here with us today, who cut up all the fruit, who cut up everything for us today that you're going to eat on today. So I really appreciate everyone coming out. And we have our fire department, our deputy chief from our fire department, Donald Rush, our deputy chief from the police department, Lacey, and superintendent of public works, Matt Stacy. So without further ado, I'm going to get this mic to Mayor Rogers, and he's going to take it from here.
Good morning, everyone. Okay, our state rep, Will Davis, is here today, and he has a limited amount of time, but he's going to make a presentation today, and he wants to tell you who he actually represents here in the village of Dolton. We're fortunate enough to have two state representatives in town, so without further ado, State Representative Will Davis.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much, Mayor Rogers, for giving me the opportunity to be here today. I am Will Davis. I represent the 30th District, which is the western side of Dolton. So I was just recently informed that Chicago Road is now King Drive. So if you live west of King Drive, as it goes west into Harvey, that is the portion of Dolton that I represent. Anywhere else in Dolton is my colleague Thaddeus Jones, and he's in the 29th District. But again, I'm Will Davis. I represent the 30th District of Illinois. Again, thank you for giving me just a few minutes. As the mayor indicated, I apologize, I can't stay. I do have a back to school parade this morning in Harvey that kicks off somewhere between 9:30 and 10 o'clock. But I have a leaflet that has my office number on here. What I strongly encourage is that if you have questions, thoughts, concerns about anything that the state of Illinois is doing, please call the office. I am a full-time representative. I don't do any other job. So if I'm not answering the phone, a young lady that works in my office named Tawny Smith is answering the phone. So again, just give our office a call. Give us an opportunity to have dialogue with you, to discuss whatever it is your concerns are. And we understand that sometimes your concerns extend beyond what the state does. It may involve just particular issues that you have that could involve any level of government. please feel free to give us a call. Let us give us the opportunity to point you in the right direction if we need to, because unfortunately we can't address everything. We have a jurisdiction, which of course is the state of Illinois, but maybe we can point you in the right direction. Maybe we know of resources, organizations that are doing various things. So sometimes we don't know if we can help you until you give us the opportunity and reach out to us to allow us to do it. So I do have for those of you who live in my district, you may have gotten this in the mail. This is the newsletter that I recently sent out. And essentially what it's attempting to do is just speak to big picture, a lot of the things that we did in Springfield this year. So we had a new governor this year, which made things a lot easier than previous administrations. And so he had an agenda, some things that he wanted to do that gained widespread support, in some cases bipartisan support in Springfield. So as you know, we passed a bill to offer recreational marijuana, in case anybody didn't know that. We did pass a bill for that. But the great thing about it is that it allows for communities to opt out. So if ultimately the village of Dolton does not want that in their village, they can opt out of it and no one can sell it in the confines of your community. We passed a bill to create resources for the census. The United States Census is coming up, ladies and gentlemen, and one of the important things about the census is that when we don't count ourselves, we do our communities a disservice, because there are federal dollars directly tied to the census that come to communities. So when people say, I don't want to, I don't want to fill that out, don't bother me with that, you are directly impacting opportunities that your community has to get resources from the federal government. So you'll see a big effort, particularly in our communities in the south suburbs, trying to make sure that people are counted, that you fill out the forms, get them submitted. So I strongly, strongly encourage you to do so when the opportunity presents itself. One of the things that our governor and the legislature, members of the legislature, are going to be embarking upon in this next election cycle is something that we call the fair tax. Fair tax is simply suggesting that people who make more money should pay more, or what we would call we call it a fair tax, because again, when each of us buys a loaf of bread, whether you make $5 or $50,000, that bread costs the same. That tax is the same for us. So in that case, it's kind of regressive. But we're saying relative to incomes that if you have a higher income, we are asking that you pay a greater portion of your income toward taxes here in the state of Illinois. So we're calling it the fair tax. You'll see a lot of information about that coming up very soon. There'll probably be a ton of commercials on TV about it. So again, that's what one of the things that is going to show up on one of the ballots in the upcoming election cycle is about the fair tax. We passed a capital bill for the first time in 10 years. Capital bill is an opportunity for the state of Illinois to give money back to communities, taxing bodies, to do a number of different things relative to infrastructure. So it's not program dollars, it's infrastructure dollars. Now, again, one thing that I want you to know is that just like each of you, I am a taxpayer as well. So yes, I did vote to make sure that we have the resources to fund a capital bill. And that means there are a variety of taxes that you may see go up, if you will, like for instance, motor fuel taxes. So you might pay a little bit more for gas, but the benefit to your community is that we are doubling the amount of motor fuel dollars that are coming back to the village of Dolton. And those are dollars that can be used to repair streets, fix streets, curbs, sidewalks, and things of that nature. Now, the beauty of it is that when we as a state are able to give more money back to our communities, and you think about what those communities have budgeted, then if we're giving more money back, then that frees up those resources where they can put them in other places. Communities can use them in other places. So the more we can bring back, the more the village of Dolton has the opportunity to shift monies and do other things that they would like to do, but maybe walking into their budget cycle didn't necessarily have the resources to do it. So this is an ongoing thing. The capital bill should last us about 6 years. So over year for the next few years, we'll be refining it, and we'll be finding more ways as state legislators, myself, Representative Jones, and your Senator Harris, will be trying to find additional ways to push more money out to the communities that we serve. And it's one of the things I always do, and I didn't. While yes, I am here in the village of Dolton, but I represent communities of Riverdale, Harvey, Markham, Phoenix, Dixmoor, East Hazelcrest, Homewood, Flossmoor, Oak Forest, Midlothian, Posen, Robbins, and Blue Island. So we're trying to impact all of the communities out here in the south suburbs. Just a little history about myself. I grew up in Harvey, attended school in School District 152. I went to Thornridge High School, and then and then off to college in Carbondale, where I went to Southern Illinois, Carbondale. Maybe some of you did as well. Finished a bachelor's degree in political science in 3 years, have a master's degree, and have now been serving in the General Assembly for 17 years now. So just a little history of myself. So again, this document just speaks big picture. You may have some very specific questions for me. Be more than happy to try to answer them. But again, call our offices. Again, if I'm not answering the phone, a young lady named Tawny Smith is answering the phone. We're the only two people that work in that office. So your call will get answered, and or your call will get returned. That I can guarantee you. So please reach out to us. Let us know what your thoughts are, what your feelings are about a variety of things, whatever that is. And we will certainly do our best to try to be helpful. And I'll end with this. One of the things that I did as a state rep a couple years ago, I was a sponsor of a bill, Senate Bill 1947, which is a new way to fund schools here in the state of Illinois. So as a result of changing the way that we redistribute our state dollars, we have been able to push upwards of a billion new dollars to schools throughout the entire state of Illinois. And I can assure you that your local school districts, 148, 149, as well as 205, have benefited from getting additional resources from the state of Illinois. And we also created a new distribution model, which suggests that schools that need the money most. So if you're in a community that doesn't have a lot of local wealth, not a lot of businesses, and we know that there's a lot of burden on you as taxpayers, but at the very least, we're trying to flip the script on that and suggest that if you are one of those communities where your taxpayers are pushing a lot of dollars to you, and we want to try to change that, so we created a new distribution model. So we create an adequacy target. So an adequacy target suggests that every student, it costs X number of dollars to educate them. So when we look at that in totality, School District 205 may have a very high adequacy target, very high. So schools that have those highest adequacy targets are the schools that are getting money first. Brand new way of doing it. Proud to have been the sponsor of that bill in Springfield. And as long as we can keep pushing new money into the funding form, then we're going to close those adequacy targets quicker to make sure our school districts have adequate resources to educate the young people that we have. I sit on something called the Property Tax Relief Task Force. We met yesterday on the Assessments and Exemptions Subcommittee that I chair. But again, there's a big effort in Springfield to try to figure out how we can lower your property taxes as well. So a lot going on in Springfield. Again, please call me if you want to talk about any of this, discuss any of this, whatever the case may be. And again, I represent you west of King Drive. But my office is open to anyone. So if you'd like to call, please feel free to do so. So I'll walk and pass a few of these out. And again, thank you very much, Mayor.
Some questions, and I know you have to leave. How long is the term for a state representative?
It is a 2-year term. So state representatives run every 2 years. We happen to be in an election cycle right now. So every time there's a presidential race, I run for re-election. Every time there's a gubernatorial race, I run for re-election. So every 2 years.
Okay, and you don't just represent Dolton. What are the other communities you represent in your district?
Oh, I share them.
Okay.
I share the other 14 communities that I represent.
Right.
As well. And while it's 15 communities and says, wow, that's a lot, some of my downstate colleagues represent entire counties. It may be 200 miles from one end of their district to the other. It's only 20 minutes from one end of mine to the other. So just to put it in perspective.
Okay, in regards to the legislation that's going to start January 1 about the cannabis, there is you mentioned the fact that the communities can opt out, but can you also tell your constituents about the advantages of from the sales tax revenue that is generated from those sales.
Well, needless to say, there's a lot of interest in our bill that legalizes recreational marijuana. So remember, we already have medical cannabis that already exists. So now is an opportunity to make it recreational. Now, just for the record, let me say that by legalizing it doesn't mean that it's just open season. So you can't walk down the street with an open beer, can't walk down the street smoking a joint either. So just to put it in perspective, a lot of people think it's just wide open and you can just do it any and everywhere. No, that is not the case. But Mayor mentioned sales tax revenue. So to the extent in which obviously businesses can be set up, you know, if you have the resources and can buy in, you can grow. You can have a dispensary, which is distributing it, and there are a lot of ancillary businesses that can come as well. Some of you probably bake very well. Edibles, it's an opportunity for you to have a business, if that is a talent that you have. CBD oil, obviously you see those signs going up everywhere. There is yet a business. It's an extract. So you can work with a dispensary and the product, the physical product that they then send out to the stores, if you will, or the grow houses, the physical product they send to the dispensaries, there is an extract of oil that comes out of that. Maybe some of you have tried CBD oil. I understand that it's actually very good. And you can get CBD oil without the high, where it's just the oil itself. Some people say it helps relieve pain, migraines. I've talked to people who use it and have talked about what they think is the benefit for themselves. And again, it can be without the high. But if this community decides to allow it, then there could be stores that will add sales tax revenue to the bottom line that you receive here in the village. So while you may philosophically be opposed to it, there are some benefits of it that could come from your village. Obviously, the state will get more resources, and more resources the state get, it's my responsibility to make sure that we are redistributing resources appropriately in the state of Illinois, despite just the local sales tax revenue that could come if the village decides to allow stores to open up in your community. And again, this is working in conjunction. So again, before you say, oh my God, it's just gonna be wild. I mean, you know, the deputy chief is here. You know, this is the conversation, and this is where communities come together to take something that otherwise may be bad and figure out how to make it good for the communities, work collectively, work collaboratively together to have this in your community, but not to the point where it just gets wild and crazy. And I think the benefit to police departments is that monies will be put into a pot that will then be redistributed to police departments to give them a little more resource to do what they do.
I've had a lot of dialogue with the mayor of Denver in regards. Denver was one of the first states that allowed recreational marijuana. Their first year, they brought in $234 million in sales tax that went directly to the city, which allowed them to do a lot of things. You know, streets, hire more police officers. So there is a benefit from the sales tax revenue. And lastly, I want you to touch on the violence that we've had here in the village of Dolton, the resources that I'm trying to get from the state. If you can just touch on that before you leave.
Certainly. One thing that I can certainly tell you about your mayor is that he has spent time in Springfield. He does go down there to meet not just with legislators, but also agency heads to try to find out what resources they have that he can bring back. Unfortunately, we all know that Dolton has been on the news way too much for what I will call random acts of violence. I just obviously saw this morning on CLTV that someone was in custody for the young lady that was killed that had the kids in her car. And that's fantastic. So you got to give credit to your police department for engaging actively to have someone in custody. But these are all very, very tough times. So we know that Dolton is in need of more resources. So when I talked earlier about if we can bring other resources to the village, then they can have the opportunity to free up some of the monies that they are currently have, and then be able to push them, whether it's law enforcement, community safety, whatever the case may be. Lighting is a big thing as well. I think my colleague Thaddeus Jones has embarked upon an effort to try to talk to our Department of Transportation to put cameras on the expressways, because sometimes when these types of incidences happen, somebody is fleeing the scene, they go immediately to the expressways because they feel that's the quickest way to get away. Well, if we put more cameras on the expressways, technology is a great thing, and we can certainly time when an incident happens and then start looking at the surveillance cameras around to see what weird activity is going on, and hopefully be able to use that as a mechanism to try to catch whoever perpetrated that particular thing. But we know, I had the opportunity to participate in a press conference with the mayor a few days ago after the nightclub incident as well. Again, that was a domestic violence, it appears, domestic violence related. So I say that to say is that what we are trying to combat, myself and others, is that Dolton is not the wild, wild west. It just is not. None of our communities are. When people decide to do certain things, while it has a reflection on the community in which it took place in, but many of us know it's not a reflection of the community. It's just not a reflection of the community, and we have to continue to push that. So whenever we have the opportunity to talk to our friends and neighbors, I'm sure many of you probably got phone calls. I've talked to people who have friends who live out of state that are hearing these stories, and what I hope they're telling them is that, yeah, that happened, but if something happens in your town, is your town a bad place? No, it's not. Unfortunately, random things happen, and these incidences are random, and we should not put a label on the village of Dolton that it's the place to go if you want to commit a crime like that, or a gun crime or something like that. So we all have to work together to send the right messages, not only to the people that we know in town and our surrounding communities, but those people who are living out of state, who are seeing these stories on the news as well. But we are at the mayor's disposal to try to combat or to talk about what resources. One of the things that the mayor and some of the other South Suburban mayors, they were very aggressive in helping this particular governor get into office. So we've helped him. It's now time for him to help us. And he has to hear that, not only from the mayors and the trustees, but he needs to hear that from all of you. His office number in Chicago is 312-814-2121. Call his office. Ask him, what are you doing to help the village of Dolton? Start doing that. If he gets enough phone calls like that, he's going to start saying, well, what's going, even if he doesn't know, he's going to start asking questions. He's going to talk to his staff, find out what's happening out there. Go talk to the mayor, see what's happening out there, and see how we can help, meaning from the governor's office. So again, when we talk about community engagement, a lot of ways to do it, but that's one way and you can do it. Start lobbing those phone calls to the governor's office downtown. At some point, he's going to reach out to the mayor and say, what's going on? What can I do to help? The mayor's prepared. I'm sure he's got a list probably in his pocket as we speak to say, this is what I need. And then he has the support of his state legislators, because the governor's going to say, what about the state rep, state senator? And we're going to say, we're with the mayor. If he's told you what he needs, that's what we need to do. Upcoming veto session, if there's an opportunity to change something, to fix something that creates resources for the village, then we're going to try to support that bill, that piece of legislation, or make sure if somebody wants to do something, is there a way in which we can include the village of Dolton in that as well. So,
Okay, great.
I'm sorry, the governor's office is 312-814-2121.
All right. Will, you got time to accept just a couple of questions? Okay.
In reference to the medical marijuana dispensaries here in Dolton, since we do need a tremendous amount of money, this is an opportunity to make millions and millions of dollars. Every municipality around here are trying to get that incorporated into their business plan. I think personally we should do that too. We need the money. we can use the money for all of the different fire chief and all of these things. But my question is this, and I'm an advocate of it, just to let you know my position. But my question is, how do we go about doing this if we were interested in getting a marijuana dispensary here in Dolton?
Well, if a company wants to bring that to Dolton, obviously there are local things that they're going to have to do. They can't just open up a business here. So there is a process that exists here in the village of Dolton for anyone who wants to open a business. So obviously they need to be talking to the mayor's office, to the administration about what they want to do. So, but it's just a business. But now, mind you, a lot of the money that comes is because the licensing fees for a certain aspect of it are extremely high. So that company is going to have deep pockets to walk in here to be able to do it. So not only is there the state licensing, there might even be local licensing that he or she will have to pay. So it's really about how they interact. Again, they can't just like any business in town, shouldn't just be able to just open up. They got to go through the administration. They have to go through certain processes in order to make that happen. But it does require significant resources. Let me make an announcement with regard to that. So Chicago State University on September 28th is having I'll call it a resource fair, if you will. So they're going to have the legislators that help introduce and pass the bill sitting on a panel answering questions, and they're going to have like a resource fair for anybody who's interested in opening a business, because there are some monies that are available to help with small businesses, both grants and loans, to help with small businesses. So on the 28th of September, Chicago State University, there's a registration process, but anybody can go online, Google Chicago State. It's on their website, and if you want to register to go, maybe you just want to listen. Go listen to what's being said so you can get information, get accurate information about this whole process and what, if any of you have an interest in opening a business related to this industry, what some of the requirements are for that, and how you may be able to do that. So, my pleasure, sir. And then I think this gentleman right here.
Please stress and let everyone know that the fair tax plan will only impact about 3% of the population. So
Right.
97% of the population won't see increase in their taxes. This is to tax the super rich who've been paying the same as the secretary,
Right.
that pay the same taxes for years. So the fair tax plan would bring a tremendous amount of revenue to Illinois and the different communities.
So to say it differently, what we call fair tax, it might be called graduated income tax. So the federal government has a graduated income tax already. So not everybody pays the same amount of federal tax. It's all based on your income. So we are looking to adopt something similar here in the state of Illinois, graduated income tax. But the idea is that the focus of our fair tax plan is, again, for those people who make a lot of money, to ask them to pay their fair share. Remember, in Illinois, we had a flat tax system, which means that if you made $1 million, you paid 3%. If you made $28,000, you paid 3%. Now, some people say, well, if they make more and they're paying 3%, that's more money overall. And I'm not disagreeing with that, but this is a tiered system that helps to eliminate tax burdens to those that don't have money, and it does push a lot of the tax burden upward to people who make more money. So they'll be paying more than 3%, just like everybody else pays. So again, it's the focus of the fair tax is on folks that make a lot of money, the very high end, somewhere between the 1% to 3% of folks on the top end of the income spectrum here in the state of Illinois. And statistically, and I work with an organization called the Center for Tax and Budget Accountability. It is a nonpartisan tax policy think tank. So it means they've got Republicans, Democrats, independents on their board, and they only put out information that everybody agrees on. Their information suggests that if we put this in place, Illinois will not see an exodus of these folks, because places like California has a ton of millionaires, already has a fair tax plan, like something similar to this in California. So it doesn't mean everybody's going to pack up and leave Illinois. That's not, statistically, that's not going to happen. People make decisions about where they want to live and where they want to go every day. So all this stuff you hear about because of our tax systems, everybody's just leaving the state of Illinois. That is just not the case. People make decisions about where they want to go for a variety of reasons, none necessarily related to taxes here in the state of Illinois. Now, do we have some tax problems? Absolutely. We're acknowledging that. And again, at least the state of Illinois, we're trying to do what we can to address that through school funding reform, which will help, as well as just overall, we're trying to use a task force that I sit on to try to figure out ways to lower our property tax burden here in the state of Illinois.
One more question. Could you update us on the casino, possible casino coming to the south suburbs? Is that a reality or not a reality?
It is a reality. So in one of the bills that we passed was a comprehensive gaming bill, which I think it has 5 new licenses in it. One of those licenses is slated. Now, I wouldn't have done it this way, but sometimes it's you got to get enough votes to get there. But the bill allows for a casino to be licensed here in a 6-township geography. So that's Bloom, Bremen, Rich, Thornton, Worth. I think I got them all. Five township area. So it'll be in one of those townships. The legislation has revenue sharing with all of the communities that are listed in what we call the South Suburban Mayors and Managers geography. So regardless of where it is, the village of Dolton, who I understand is not interested in a license, I don't believe, Mayor, please correct me if I'm wrong, but they will still get revenue sharing. I said, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm not trying. First of all, I'm not trying to put you on the spot. I'm simply saying that the communities that don't have the actual facility still benefit from the facility because there will be revenue sharing amongst all the South Suburban communities. But because we have a number of communities that have decided to submit applications for it, I think at least 5 that I'm aware of, there may be more, then the Illinois Gaming Board will make a decision based on their applications, based on almost sound like a judge, based on their creativity. So they're putting things in what they think they would like to do with the money, how they like to help communities. They like to, whether they want to create funds for not-for-profit organizations or do create monies for specific things for communities here. So whatever that is, all I'm simply saying is that application has information in about what they would like to do. And so everybody's trying to make their application as pretty as possible, dressing it up, putting a little cologne and perfume on it, whatever it is that they're trying to do, so they can be the one to get the license. But the benefit regionally is that all communities will benefit from revenue sharing, regardless whether you're the host community or not. But yes, it is real. There will be a casino in the south suburbs, and personally, I think we're looking forward to that. And one of the things that I say is that I'm not a gambler. It's not something that I do. If I go to Vegas, maybe I'll go, sit at the machine, or, just because it's just what you do when you go to Vegas, not trying to spend all my money, so to speak. So one of the things when people say, oh, that gambling is just this, people, again, make decisions about what they want to do all the time. And one of the reasons why we're trying to have one in the South area as close as possible, if you will, maybe to Indiana, is because there's no doubt, if anybody's ever driven through one of those parking lots over in Indiana, all you see are Illinois plates. So we know folks from Illinois are going. So what can we do to try to capture some of that revenue and keep it here in the state of Illinois so that our communities, our state can benefit from those efforts? So this is not trying to turn people into gamblers. I don't think if it's one in the Southland, it's going to turn me into a gambler. Hopefully, if you are not one, it's not going to turn you into one either. It's all about trying to attract revenue from people who do, and that is what they like to do. God bless them, for doing it. But we want to try to keep as much of that money here in the state of Illinois, which is why we moved in the way we did with the casino bill or gambling bill.
Okay,
the applications, I think, are due either
next month.
They're due the end of October. I'm not sure how long the gaming board will deliberate over those. We know that there is some expediency because, as I talked about the capital bill is 2 parts. There's the vertical part, the horizontal part. The vertical part, which is mostly roads and things of that nature, a lot of that is going to be funded through motor fuel tax and other things like that. The vertical portion of the capital bill, which is buildings and money for state universities and things of that nature, a lot of that is going to be derived from gaming from the taxes off gaming. So the quicker they get it going, the quicker you get it built, then the quicker it contributes to helping to fund a portion of the capital bill that, again, others would like to see funded as well. So I don't have a timeline specific for you. We know the applications are due. I'm sure the gaming board will be doing the best that they can to try to get those that application approved as quickly as possible, so those that entity, that gaming partner, can start building wherever it is, whoever the winner is. They want to start building as quickly as possible.
Realistically, we probably won't see the benefit of any casino, whether it's sharing or whether we had one in our community, for about 2 years. Now, to answer your question, about 4.5 years ago, there was only 2 of us that submitted plans to have a casino. That was Dolton and Country Club Hills. And at that time, we thought, in fact, that we had a good parcel, which was going to be at 142nd Street from Cottage Grove all the way to the expressway. It included 18 acres of property that we own. It included federal wetland that we were going to get permission to actually move that wetland back towards the dump and create parking, hotel, and casino. Well, something happened, and then for 4 years, nothing happened. And so now I think there's probably 7 to 9 communities that have put a plan in to have a casino in their town. I didn't think it was our benefit. Again, we've already spent money previously in 4.5 years ago to put a plan together that we submitted to the commission, Bob Rita, at the time when they held the meetings. So looking at the communities that are interested in putting the casino in place right now and looking at our chances of getting the casino, I did not put a plan forward to participate to get a license. But if that casino comes to the community, comes to the south suburbs, we will be in a profit sharing mode, if you will, to get some of the benefits from that casino. Now, just as Representative Davis mentioned the fact that if you go in Indiana and you go through those parking lots, you'll see Illinois license plates. I'm going to directly connect this with video gaming in our town. You know, there was a strong resistance to bringing video gaming here in the village of Dolton by some of the previous board. But let me tell you that with neighboring communities, if we don't have it, they just take our money from Dolton and take it to the next community that does have it. Because if a person wants to gamble, they're going to find a place to do it. So none of these video gaming places or none of the locations in the village of Dolton that has video gaming have we had one incident. And video gaming started out in the state of Oregon, and it was started as something for the housewives to do while their husbands were at work. That was the first state. So, and now, of course, it's throughout the whole United States. But I think our total share from sales tax revenue for those video gaming machines last year was over $120,000. And that was from about 38 machines. Now, our neighbor, I'm not going to mention which neighbor, has about 85 machines, and their share of their revenue sales tax was over $300,000. So you can see the benefit of how it helps the community. So, so at any rate, it is what it is, and with this recreational marijuana, I've already been approached by about 7 legitimate companies that want to do a dispensary here, and also a company that wants to do cultivation. We have some land where they actually can grow the marijuana, and that's a portion of this legislation. So, so at any rate, it's like anything else. In the Prohibition years, when alcohol was illegal and all those people got killed, you know, gangsters, innocent people, and then they legalized it. It's not the fact of the drug, it's the fact of the abuse of the drug. And the abuse can be in anything. It can be in shopping, it can be in gambling, it can be in alcohol. So we have to look at the fact of how this is going to benefit our community, and I support the legalization of the marijuana through the legislature, and we have to figure out a way to bring it here, monitor it, and like State Rep says, there are some things we have to put in place in regards to where it's going to be located, the enforcement aspect of it, and and do it right so we can benefit from the sales tax of that.
Having visited a grow house over in Bedford Park, I can assure you that it's secure. The security is at the highest level, screening the people that work there. I was blown away at what I saw when I visited one of the grow houses. Again, it's over in Bedford Park, and I think there are a couple kind of in the general vicinity around here. So again, I understand that some people just don't like it and have no interest in it. Okay, I can appreciate that. Not something I have an interest in either, but I have to at least be open-minded when they talk about revenue to the state that we can hopefully turn around and bring back to communities, something I got to at least consider, at least listen to what's being said about it. So,
Okay, we got
else?
one last question back there, and I want to welcome our trustee Andrew Holmes, who came in a little bit ago, and then our village clerk Mary Kay Dugan, that came in. So, go ahead, Andrew.
First of all, good morning, everybody. Representative, the only problem I have with this casino is that Orland Park is built up. They have everything over there that they can have. Tilley Park has everything that they can have over there. Only thing I'm gonna say, I hope you and a few more of the legislators are thinking about putting this, if we don't have a bid in, think about putting it close here, because how can you build up a city, and that city and them suburbs have everything they have already, and it's like a big night and day from Orland Park, Tilley Park, when you look at Dolton, when you look at Harvey, when you look at Blue Island over here in our community. So if they're gonna agree to put this casino there, I hope they consider putting it over here and then putting it over there, because they income and they living good. I'm gonna put it that way. That side of the city is living good, and they have everything that they can have over here. It's time to take a look and build up what we got here, if it don't even be in Dolton.
So let me maybe add a little clarity to that. So what the trustee is speaking to is the fact that in the bill there was the licensing of a casino that is within that geography. I think, and that's not to say they couldn't change their mind, but a lot of the conversation about Tinley Park is they want to build a racino, which is a racetrack that has gaming positions at it. That's what they want to build. At least that's what we've been told. Now, again, at the end of October, we'll see who submits applications, and we'll see what those applications are. But at least a lot of the current conversation, that at least I've heard anyway, is that Tinley Park wants to build a racetrack and then add a casino to it. Now, what I've been told is that they are two independent applications, which means that those communities that want to build a casino will submit their applications. If there are communities that are interested in a racino, they will have to submit an application for the racetrack first, and that application goes to the racing board, not the gaming board. So there's potential to have ultimately two casinos in the Southland, but one of them will be tied to a racetrack, thoroughbred track, what have you. If anybody's ever been to Arlington just for the day, and something like that, and then they're going to have a casino facility on those grounds as well. Now, whether or not we agree that there should be two in the area, one of the supposed benefits is the fact that each facility or each application has revenue sharing in it. So technically, from a casino, Dolton could get revenue sharing. And then if there is a racetrack with a casino, Dolton could get revenue sharing from that as well. The language has all of the communities in it, so in both respects. Now, what the trustee is speaking of, and this is what we've been trying to figure out, is if Tinley Park were to have a racetrack and a casino, does that mean that there won't be another casino in some of the other communities, like the mayor's mentioned, that have put in an application? it appears that there are two separate applications, two opportunities, and they are separate, so they will make separate decisions. So the the gaming board won't defer to the racing board to see what they do. It's a separate application. So the gaming board will make a decision on those communities that have submitted an application, and then at some point, the racing board will also make a decision. There may only be a couple of communities that we're aware of that have the desire for a racetrack, and then they will add a casino to the racetrack as well. But the racetrack is an application. It must be in place first. The racetrack has to be built before they can then apply to get the casino portion of their racetrack. So we've been trying to fight, inconsistent information coming from a couple of different areas. So I'm not disagreeing with you about what we know happens in Orland and what we know happens in Tinley Park. If anybody shops at River Oaks, I still do, but if anybody else shops at River Oaks, unfortunately, that's the proposed location for a casino. So we will lose that if their application is approved. So, there are a lot of different ways to look at it. And again, there's a lot of information floating around. But again, Trustee, I don't disagree with you about acknowledging what Tinley Park already has. And if they are able to build, presumably, a racetrack, again, won't know until the end of October if Tinley Park decides to just submit a casino application, only casino. We know they're interested in a racetrack. Now, one of the challenges that I do have with that is the land that they want to use to put the racetrack on is state-owned land. So they don't even control the land. So why are they allowed to submit an application for land they don't even own or control? Got a real big problem with that. But talking to the administration, just trying to see how they feel about it, talking to one of the deputy governors, that was my concern to him, which he understood. To my knowledge, there hasn't been a decision made by the state to sell or transfer that land, if you will. So I won't know the answer to that question as well. But everybody's monitoring, everybody's looking just to see exactly who's trying to do what. Unfortunately, we just don't know who's trying to do what just yet.
Okay, well, hopefully we got those leaders up there that can fight for us in the south suburbs.
Absolutely.
Here, because I'm already
the mayors, I believe all the mayors have signed on to a letter to the governor raising some of the same concerns that you have about from just a practical development standpoint, that there are communities that need to benefit from that type of development versus communities that already have significant development. The mayors have, 2 letters that I'm aware of have gone to the governor's office about that particular issue. So the mayors out here are standing strong and trying to make sure, that they get the best possible benefit from anything that happens as it relates to gaming here in the state of Illinois.
Yeah, I understand that, and I respect that, but see, you got people besides the mayors and residents that are concerned about that too, and it'll be an insult if that casino, if it does pass it and it goes over to the west side. We need to build up over here.
Absolutely.
We need to build up our community, and that's what I'm gonna stand on. And if it goes that way, they'll hear from me.
Absolutely, they should.
One question I have, I read something in the article where they said that a casino can only be a certain distance from a racino, which will kind of exclude the south suburbs. Is that true? Where it's a certain distance that a casino can be from a racino, and if they put the racino in a certain place, it would exclude the south suburbs.
No, that's not true.
Right.
We can have a casino. The idea of the racino or racetrack was by Arlington. Arlington didn't want to have another racetrack in their geography. So there was a radius that came that pushed it out 35 miles. Again, there apparently have been some conversations in the village of Tinley Park about having it. They've partnered with the folks that used to have Hawthorne Racetrack, and this is where they have decided they would like to put a racetrack. But relative to a casino, that's more about distance between racetracks. Has nothing to do with casino.
Yeah, and State Rep mentioned the fact it was state-owned land. That land used to be the mental health facility.
Tinley Park Mental Health Facility.
Tinley Park, and it's vacant. It's been shut down for 4 or 5, or
No,
maybe longer than that.
Longer than
So it would be a benefit for economic development there. The other thing is, if you remember, we used to have racetracks in the south suburb. Washington Park Racetrack is now where the Homewood Mall is.
Mall is.
Yeah. And then Balmoral. Both of those racetracks are closed. So I think the only one that's in our close proximity is Arlington and Hawthorne.
Hawthorne, whatever's in Maywood or whatever.
Maywood is down.
Maywood, okay.
Yeah, Maywood is down.
There you
So,
go.
so at any rate, there has been legislation. If we don't get we won't get the casino, because I didn't put a plan in, because I didn't think that we could survive the competition. One of the things that they're taking into consideration is the proximity of where that casino is located in regards to the expressways, and where they can have easy access to get on and off, which would allow other participants to come to those casinos. Like you can get on a toll road and go to the one up near Des Plaines Rivers or something like that. So I think some of those communities that are in closer proximity to on and off ramps have a better chance of getting the casino.
So, well, let me say thank you again. I left a few of my newsletters. Again, I represent you west of King Drive, or what was Chicago Road. Left a few newsletters on the table. It has my telephone number on it. If you have any questions, please call. Yes.
And where's, I'm sorry. Oh, Will, you want to tell everybody where your office is located?
My office is located, essentially, it's 1912 174th Street. So I'm just north of 175th and Dixie Highway. It's in
Okay.
East Hazel Crest.
Okay, one last question. Hold on.
Trustee Holmes, what he was saying. When they built the Regal and the United Center, I believe the reason why Regal didn't succeed was because it didn't get all the resources that it needed to be successful. Even though it was fabulous on the inside, it didn't have adequate parking, people couldn't get in and out, didn't get the security. But United Center, when they started building that, they made it fabulous. They made sure that it had the resources that it needed to be successful. Right. Regal didn't get the same thing, and I do believe what he said is true. If we get a casino or whatever, we need the resources that come along with it, not just the casino. You know, everything that comes along with having, and to be successful. That's all. But he's true.
So, again, thank you all very much. My parade is supposed to start at 10. Let me rush over to Harvey so I can do that. Thank you very much,
Thanks,
Mayor.
Will.
Appreciate
Thanks.
your time.
Yeah. And I want to say that since we've had these incidents here in Dolton, I've reached out to everybody I could, our Congresswoman, the U.S. Department of Justice, our Senator, both of our state reps. All of them have chimed in and are going to try to help us get resources to put more police officers here, and actually to pay for overtime. You know, one of the things that the young lady told me from the Justice Department was that, you know, we normally, if we fund you, that money is used for overtime. But even after a period of overtime, how effective are your police officers? You know, if they're working 10 to 12 hours, back-to-back shifts, at some point in time, they get tired and they become ineffective. So we want fresh bodies out there. And if we do fund this overtime, we have to limit the amount of time that we put our police officers in there, because not only do they put themselves in jeopardy by not being alert, they also put the community in jeopardy because they're tired, you know. So at any rate, I know today we had put out that we were going to have somebody here from our water department to actually go through how to read the meters, some of the common mistakes that are happening, and but I'm gonna. She was scheduled for vacation prior to this, and when we put this together and the emails went out, we didn't know that. So that will happen next Coffee with the Mayor, and also in between that time, we will be up on Channel 4 and Channel 99 explaining how to read the meter and a lot of the common mistakes that are made when the yellow cards are sent back in when a meter reader hasn't been able to read your meter. So also we have to be out here by 10:30, and Well, not really, well, close to it. We're good. We're good today? Okay, nothing scheduled in this room. But we have a village attorney here, John Murphy, and I wanted John to come in and explain some of the things that we're going through and how it affects the village. And John represents several South suburban communities here as their village attorney. So, John, if you want to start.
Good morning, everybody. I am proud and honored to be the Dolton Village Attorney. As I was driving out here, for those of you who come to board meetings or watch on YouTube or cable, you see at the board meetings I sit right next to the mayor. And as I was driving out today, probably we've had, what, between regular and special board meetings, Riley, over 100? At least, it seems like 1,000, but and up until recently, I was a little hurt and upset because with all of these meetings, I was a little disappointed in the mayor that he never ever asked me to lead the prayer. But then I thought a little more about it, and I thought, you know, he's right, because nobody knows what the good Lord would do if he ever heard a prayer coming from a lawyer. We don't know if lightning would strike or there'd be a flood. So I'm better off sticking to the things that are civil and legal. I want to take a few minutes before we dive into these hot topics about the marijuana, casino, and related things, just to let everybody think a little bit about the village and the day-to-day operation. The Village of Dolton is what's called a municipal corporation, right? And a corporation is, in a very real sense, a business. We have a $15 million business to run. You've got a very, very talented village administrator here. So a lot of times the job of the attorney is not at the board meetings, because things are pretty much done at that point. But the job of the attorney is behind the scenes, working with the mayor, working with the staff to have the business of Dolton taken care of. Think about it. We probably have 100 contracts in any given year, and there's always legal analysis and legal review to do. So that's an important part of the day-to-day operation of the village. The village is an employer. For those of you who've looked at the budget, you know that probably 80%, 80% of the village's revenue and expenditures relate to labor. So for every dollar we get in revenue, 80 cents is out the door in salaries, health insurance, and in pension. So you can see that, first of all, our police and our fire and our public works and our clericals do a fabulous job with limited resources. They deserve every penny they earn and more. But it's a constant challenge to be able to balance things, and your staff does a tremendous job. So with employer, we have a lot of labor contracts with the police, with fire, with public works, and so there's a lot of work that needs to be done in the area of labor relations. There, from time to time, management doesn't read the contract exactly the same way that labor reads the contract. So we have that little bit of tension from time to time, but we try to work collectively and collaboratively to make sure the business of the village moves forward. And then when you see board meetings, so much of what you don't see is the work behind the scenes that is done prior to the board meetings to get things ready. I view the role of the attorney as sometimes I'm the grease, meaning let's get things moving, but sometimes I'm the brakes, saying that we're not ready to have this go to a vote yet. We need a little more analysis, a little more discussion. So to some extent, the village attorney serves the role of the traffic cop, kind of controlling what comes to the board for a vote and when it comes to the board for a vote. One of the things we tend to overlook and I'm glad we talked about cannabis because this will be a good lead into it, is that the village board passes ordinances, right? Ordinances are laws no different than state statutes. So if the legislature passes a law, that governs the entire state. But when our village board adopts an ordinance, that becomes the law that's binding and enforceable on everybody within the village of Dolton. So it's a serious responsibility. Everything from an ordinance that adds a new stop sign or designates King Drive is a law that's adopted by your village board. So the representative democracy that you see at our board meetings, sometimes it's rough and tumble, close fist, but democracy works. And I think you should pay attention, I'm sure you do, when our village board works through these challenging issues. Let's now, because we've had so many questions about the cannabis law and casino, and I was really struck that, as listening to Representative Davis and the mayor, is that everything we've talked about today is about money, right? Every single thing we've talked about is how are we going to get money to continue to fund our government without putting much more on the backs of our property taxpayers. You know, there's an old expression that everybody wants to go to heaven, but nobody wants to die. Everybody wants top-flight services, a well-paid police and fire department, streets that are under repair, and a quality of life in your municipality. But not many of us want a greater tax burden, especially on the property tax. So as we move forward in the next 4 or 5 years, you are going to see a constant struggle and effort by the village and even by the state as a whole to find new tax revenues to allow us to continue to move forward while limiting what's going to go on the back of the homeowner in terms of property taxes. The Representative Davis started to speak about it, but nothing can be more important to the state of Illinois than to limit school funding from the property tax. That is a statewide responsibility, and schools should be funded from state revenues. It's completely unfair to have the homeowners bear the burden of their property taxes. You know, you've got your tax bill a month or two ago. You see the hit that you take from the schools. And of course, the schools have no choice. But it's unfair for our area to continue to depend on the property tax when go up the Edens Expressway and when you see Wilmette and Winnetka, those giant factories and warehouses, those fund the New Trier High Schools and the Wilmette schools. It's just not fair. We've got to get away from that inequality, so I was glad to hear the representative moving forward on that. Let's now turn to the nuts and bolts of the cannabis law. The gentleman in the back asked about that. You know, if 10 years ago somebody told me that 10 years from now I could smoke a joint while I'm betting on college football, I would have put that person in a mental institution, right? But the times change, and we have to react to the changing times. Our legislature has determined that marijuana, cannabis, is a commodity, no different than a bottle of Tito's. It's a commodity that can be consumed. That's the general policy that the state legislature has set. Now, it's up to each municipality to make a decision whether first, do we want it in Dolton or do we not want it in Dolton? So as we move forward into October, the village board is going to make the initial decision, do we want to opt out? There's a provision in the law that says a municipality can opt out, meaning they can prohibit cannabis sales wall to wall throughout the town. My sense is that this village board is going to allow cannabis sales. So once we get past that point, we now have a deadline of December 31st to make what's called the zoning decisions. Now, we're not going to allow cannabis to be sold on residential streets. The board's going to have to make a decision. What part of town are we going to allow the retail sale cannabis? I've been to other places. It's not a hell of a lot different than if you go to a 7-Eleven or something. They're well maintained. They're not loud. It's just another retail commodity store, but it's a business. So my sense is that the village board is going to provide that the sale of cannabis is permitted in the retail strips, Sibley Boulevard, some of the other areas, but that's what the board's going to be looking at in the next 3 months. All of a sudden, folks, it's the middle of September, right? So we've only got 3.5 months to make this decision. So decision number one, are we going to opt out, or are we going to accept marijuana as a legal commodity to be sold, regulated, and taxed in the village? And once the board makes the decision that we're going to move forward with cannabis, then the board will decide what areas of town should it go in. It's a commercial product, so it should only go in the commercial areas. Some towns are giving thoughts to whether we should disperse them, meaning don't cluster them. They have to be 1,000 feet apart from another one. And other towns are thinking, well, why not cluster them? Riley had talked about video gaming. He's 100% right that here we are talking about betting on college football games, and video gaming doesn't seem like very much anymore, does it? But it is a revenue of choice. People decide what they want to do, and it is a easy source of revenue for the village with no collateral consequences. I know I see the chief and the deputy chief. The law enforcement community has concerns about legal marijuana because, let's face it, there is a danger that there will be more intoxicated people on the road. I mean, that's a reality, but that's a function of abuse rather than use, so that it becomes a personal choice by the consumer on how he or she wants to do it. I had talked to some people from Oregon when video gaming started, and they said that's how we started this video gaming business, for the housewife going to the shopping center or whatever and playing a little video gaming. And they would kiddingly say, do you know what we call that? And I go, what? And he says, we call that the $100 gallon of milk. So does anybody have any questions on the timing of the cannabis? Let me just mention one other thing. When I was, again, driving out, you see all the that fresh grow, on the Bishop Ford at 111th by Pullman. That's what these grow facilities are. It's after all, it's a plant, right? And so they can be in enclosed areas. We've got land that might be attractive to these facilities, but they're clean, they're regulated, and it'll take significant investment to do that. So I'm sure Mayor Rogers' theme is that Dolton is open for business for the new cannabis industry. You had a question?
Well, before we go into the questions there, part of this legislation is, I forgot what they actually call it, but there actually is going to be standalone facilities where people can go and smoke the marijuana, just like a tavern or a bar.
A cigar bar.
Like a cigar bar. So it's going to be controlled by regulation. We're a home rule community, and you may want to explain what a home rule community is. But we're going to take a look at every avenue in regards to the revenue, what the revenue would actually do for us, where these facilities would be located, and the amount of revenue, potential revenue that we would have with projections. One of my things is that, and I saw a projection that mentioned that some of these communities that bring in the dispensaries and the cultivation in either or would have an opportunity to bring in between $25 and $30 million in sales tax revenue. Yes. So one of the things that I like to do, if I'm still in office, is that if this comes to be for real, and we're able to get that kind of revenue, is we look at this community as being a more senior community as we go, and we'll get fresh numbers from the census in regards to the seniors here. And right now it's about 63%, and it's going to be more. Have retired people, but the property taxes are not going to go down. They're going to continue to go up. One of the things that I look at in bringing that type of revenue, sales revenue, into the village is that helping the seniors out and giving them a property tax rebate. When you talk about the potential of getting $15 to $30 million, sure, we're going to have to replace a lot of the infrastructure here. We have to meet union contracts and salary requirements, but I think there still would be some room there in regards to giving a property tax rebate to help the seniors stay in their properties. So that's the direction that I would like to take this community in if I'm still in office, and we're able to get a dispensary here to generate that kind of revenue. The other thing, John, is mention the fact of how we can put in legislation because we're a home rule community.
Let me mention what home rule is, because it applies not simply to something like cannabis, but generally speaking about the entire operation of the village. A home rule community is a town that has either a population of over 25,000 or a community that has voted to become home rule. The difference between a home rule town and a non-home rule is that if you are a city or village that is not home rule, you can't do anything, you can't pass any law unless Springfield says it's okay for you to pass that law. But if you're home rule, you have the ability to pass any law or take any action that you as a village board wants, unless the state specifically says a municipality cannot do that law. So I always explain this. It's the difference between being a teenager, where you have to ask mom and dad for how you want to operate, or being an adult. Dolton is an adult community, and it gives the mayor and the board many more tools in the toolbox.
Yes, Attorney Murphy. My question or my concern is that if the Village of Dolton decides to opt out of this rule, because it sounds like some decisions have already been made, but if we opt out of the decision for the marijuana, with those, how will we still benefit when we were talking about the racetracks and things like that? We still benefit sharing revenue that's coming from that if we decide to opt out. And the opt-out issue, it would be that we just wouldn't sell anything. Is that?
Yep. Remember, we've kind of blended two things: the
Right, we did.
casino
I did.
and the cannabis.
Right.
Cannabis there is no revenue sharing.
I understand
in terms
that.
of that.
So, but if we opt out of it, we still have revenue sharing on the back end of the other topic of conversation from Representative Davis. Is that
You mean
correct?
on the casino thing?
Yes.
But let me mention something about that.
Please clarify.
This notion of a racino
Yes.
is very dangerous to the African American communities
Okay.
east of 57, and even communities like Country Club Hills. Let's think about this, folks. The Tinley Park Mental Health Center is at 183rd and Harlem.
Right.
Very nice interchange, right?
Mm-hmm.
I-80 and Harlem Avenue, huge traffic generator.
Right.
I haven't been to a racetrack probably in 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I haven't been to a racetrack in 10 years is that it's boring as hell. 25 minutes, 30 minutes between races, and there's nothing to do except look at that damn program pretending you know what you're looking at. The how many, I think it's a phony case of the tail wagging the dog. And because, you know, who goes to the racetrack in February? These seasons are interrupted, they're short, but the casino part's gonna be 12 months. And sure, the law says you can have a casino and a racino, but if you're a lender and somebody comes to you and says, I want $25 million loan to put something in Country Club Hills or in Cal City, and I see that this other thing has got a 2-year head start on me, and it's got really a superior location, or at least one that's as good. I'm not going to lend the money on that. So we've got to remember that even though the law provides for both, we've got to deal with the free market. And I don't think the free market will produce 2 casinos if one of them is at Racino. So remember when Representative Davis gave you that phone number of the governor?
Correct.
The state of Illinois owns that Racino property. People should be calling the governor to raise hell about, take a slowdown on the Racino, to let's see the market work
Right.
for the communities that law was intended to work.
I totally agree.
That law was not intended to help Pindley Park. I would say, you know, if we had just one of the car dealers on 159th, we'd be happy.
Right. Right.
So it's I'm not talking law, I'm just talking what I think is
Understood.
common sense, that if there's a push to the governor, the push should be, you know, don't sell that property now. You promised these people that you'd give them a fair shake on these revenues. Let them, you know, have a shot at the market. So
Okay, now my second question was relating to the marijuana. Now I've gone into Smokies that's on Chicago Road. And I think I've mentioned this in the past, that they have things. This young man tried to sell me stuff that told me that would make me feel better. And I asked him, why was the brownies $35? Why were the gummy bears $25? And will that site per se be one of the, or maybe I should ask the mayor that, be one of those individual sites that are rendering to sell the marijuana?
I don't really understand your question.
I want to know, are they one of the individuals that will benefit from us becoming a marijuana approval, whatever, dispensary?
Well, I mean, why would you think they would benefit from it?
Well, they're already selling stuff that has things in them. That's my concern, and it has been.
Well, one of my concerns is that when these businesses come in, they operate legally, and what they have in the stores is legally. Everything in that store has been legal. So, and if it wasn't, they'd be shut down. Now, we've had people go in there and I can't tell you totally region, but undercover, if you will, and they found no offenses. Now, they're located. I'm sorry.
It's supposed to be a tobacco store?
Let her have the mic so everybody can hear what she's saying.
No, I said it's supposed to be a tobacco store for the cigars and stuff, right? With the pipes as well, right?
It's a retail store. They sell cigars in regards to a tobacco product. Tobacco is legal. Cigars are legal. Now, there's been some question in the news media about vape, and they sell these vape things, but it has not been criminalized yet, if you will, or not yet. There may be some legislation that goes in that direction. At that point, we'll make sure that our enforcement takes action to make sure they're not doing anything. But right now, they're operating legally. Along with the cigars that they sell, they'll sell other accessories. So, give it to
I'm telling you just what they told me.
Miss
CBD
Creighton,
oil.
just because it doesn't appeal to you. It may appeal to someone else. But all I'm saying is that what's in that store is legal.
I'm just trying to get a clarification.
I'm trying to clear it up for you. What I'm saying is what is in that store is legal. So if we find there's any illegal activity there, we will not hesitate to take the proper enforcement action to make sure that they're in compliance.
And let me also say that you can go into any health food store and they sell CBD oil. That does not get you high. THC gets you high. So if you go into stores, they do sell, like I went into a health food store in Hyde Park. They have brownies and gummy bears that have CBD oil that help relieve arthritis, that will help relieve migraines, but they do not get you high, so there's a difference. I don't know if Smokey sells that, but I have been in other stores that do have brownies, gummy bears, but they do not have the same effect as THC. It's CBD oil.
I understand the CBD oil. I'm telling you that I was offered something else, and I'm open to that.
Thank you.
Here you go.
Okay.
I just hope that the board and council understands the billions of dollars that are going to be generated by the cannabis and the gambling, the revenue sharing. You know, we need to understand and get out of the dark ages and get in on this. Okay, we need better policing. We need more police. We need our streets. We need the revenue for the schools. All of this. So the cannabis and the gambling, we need that. And we got to stop living in the dark ages and step into the light.
It's the abuse,
You know.
of some things. But I'm gonna say that I think that we're 6 years behind where we should be. We should not have a shortage of police officers. From day one when I came in, I asked how many police officers were eligible for retirement, how soon they were going to retire, how many police we had. And every year I asked for police and I was denied until last year. So for the past 6 years I've been in office, if we would have hired 5 police officers every year, which we could afford, we'd have a complement of 30 police officers. Right now, we've lost 15 to 20 police officers, and there's no way we should be running a shift with 3 police officers on it. And sometimes we find ourselves in that situation. We should have a minimum of 8 police officers per shift. We got 4 zones here. At least if 1 police officer or 2 police officers were assigned to each zone, we would have enough to police this community, and we could make a bigger impact on the enforcement with the bad guys. You know, so, but we find ourselves in this situation, and we're gonna make it better. I got a board that works with me now, and it's been no different in regards to how I explain things and try to make sure that this community is safe and protected. So you can't, you know, City of Chicago has, I think, 15,000 police officers. You see the crime that happens, the shootings, the murders. So the police can't be everywhere, but certainly if we have enough police officers to do enforcement, and it all starts with traffic. It all starts with traffic. You know, you talk about the gun violence, those guns get to those places by cars and trucks. That's how they get into the house. That's how they get to the house. That's how they get to the crime scene. So it all starts with traffic, and the police have to stop those cars. They have to make traffic stops. When I asked for county assistance 3 years ago, in 10 months, they got 71 guns off the street in 10 months by traffic stops. You have to stop those cars. And of course, I'm not talking about abusing anybody's rights. I'm talking about with probable cause, and it could be the simplest of probable cause. It could be a license plate light out. It could be not signaling. It could be a tail light out. It could be running a stop sign. It could be speeding. But there's a lot of guns in these cars and trucks. In the next few months, we're going to have a traffic detail that's going to be combined of of traffic and overweight. And, you know, you may say, well, you know, we're targeting people for revenue. We're targeting people for compliance, which happens to bring in revenue. You have to, a lot of times people don't learn lessons until you hit them in the pocket. Till you hit them in the pocket. It's inevitable, a way of bringing people in compliance. It's unfortunate you have to do that, but sometimes we don't understand unless there's a penalty for your action. Every action, there's a reaction. So in one of the ways of doing traffic stops is, I always hear, Mayor, they run at stop signs, put in speed bumps, they speed down, and every time that we improve a road, the speed goes up. You know, Mayor, when you gonna fix my streets? It's bumpy, my house rattles, you know, you've got all these patches in it, but the flip side of that is that it slows down traffic, to be honest with you. But of course, we want to improve roads, and we're doing some of that this month. We're doing some of that. But when we improve those roads and make it smoother, the speeds go up. Dorchester, when we did Dorchester, it was like a Indy 500. Running stop signs, some of the speeds increased to double what the speed limit is. So we're going to put a traffic detail in place. And some of you here and some other residents may wind up meeting a police officer on different terms, because I'm strongly believing in traffic enforcement. The stop signs, especially school season started back, got children crossing the street and people are flying down the street. So there's going to be a lot of tickets issued here. Okay, I'm sorry.
You back here.
Ted.
I don't know where most of these other people live, but I live in the town of Dolton. And these are some of the things I have observed while sitting in front of my house on a warm day. There's some activity going on in a neighbor's yard. All of a sudden, the noise gets down. Neighbor goes out to a car, and, you know, I'm not that smart. Someone maybe can tell me what's happening here. Car pulls up. Neighbor leans into the car with both his arms, comes back, goes back in the house. Now they're talking again in the backyard, and all of a sudden I smell this peculiar sweet odor. They have drive-up delivery now. It's still not allowed, but it's happening. And the reason it's happening is because there's not enough police, and the mayor has told us why there aren't enough police. I'm sitting in front of my house, and a rowdy group comes by, and all of a sudden I smell the same sweet, sickening smell. I'm at a Pace bus stop in Dolton, and I turn around, and all of a sudden I smell this sick, sweetening smell. It's still happening, and until we solve the problems and get enough police officers to patrol Sibley for traffic and other things, we're going to be in this problem. And it needs the citizens. You know, I understand that this recent killer was caught a lot because of citizens came forward to help. The town needs help in citizens reporting other things. You can't expect action immediately, but if you report it enough, eventually the help will come.
Yeah, now, unfortunately, Ted, when this new legislation comes in January 1, you'll probably be smelling a lot more sweet smells. You know? Now, it probably will curb some of the violence in regards to turf and drug trafficking, you know, street sales. But like anything else, there's still going to be a black market. So if the state-regulated stores sell it for $10 a bag, maybe your competition may sell it for $8 a bag. You know, so there's always going to be something to the flip side of the legalization part of it. When I hear, and I have a radio in my car, and I kind of monitor traffic, and when we have serious incidents, I try to go out to the incident to make sure that what happens that I know about. Because as soon as we get something that happens, my phone starts ringing. The news media is calling, what happened, man, so-and-so, and the last thing I want to do is not be able to provide the correct information and or not provide any information at all. Because sometimes when you provide early information, it may interfere with the investigation that's going on, and that's the last thing we want to do. There's some things that the police need to know, and the bad guy does not need to know, so we don't want it out on the press early. But when I hear some of the calls that are dispatched, and then sometimes Deputy Chief Lacey, I hear him on the radio say, hey, Dolton, how many calls do we have waiting? How many calls do we have backed up? And those calls get backed up because we don't have enough manpower on the street. Now, depending on the call, depends on how many police officers you need at that scene. You say, well, hey, it's a domestic. Well, domestic, and if you look at statistics, domestics, a lot of people get killed. Whether it's an angry husband, angry boyfriend, angry female, So we want to make sure that we send 2 to 3 officers to that domestic because it can rise to something else. A simple domestic can rise to something else. And then if you get a violent crime, you want to make sure you have enough police officers that are sent there, because the faster they get there, the better the possibility of them apprehending an offender and protecting the crime scene, which they have to do. You don't want the crime scene contaminated by people walking through it and picking up souvenirs. Oh, this is showcasing, I'm gonna pick this up. So it's important that we have enough officers to respond there to make sure that the crime scene's protected, and also that they can assist in getting information from the witnesses and making sure that they're in pursuit of the offender. Now, I'm gonna let John finish, and then I want to talk about.
Question.
Yes.
Good morning, everyone, and good morning, Mr. Mayor and Attorney Ted. I appreciate, Attorney Ted, you're saying that we should call the...
It's John. Ted's back there.
Okay, I'm sorry,
Sure.
Attorney John. I appreciate your telling us, encouraging us that we should make phone calls to the governor's office concerning the transfer, the state land for the casino, and making sure that Dolton is recognized in that proposal of the casinos coming forth for the south suburbs. I also appreciate the mayor and the police force for the work that they're doing in curtailing the crime that's happening on my block, Evers, on 151 and 150th. I appreciate the work that you guys are doing over there. My question is regarding the cannabis sales. As Dolton looks to the different companies that are looking to be dispensaries or growers in the area, how much consideration or priority will be made for African American growers or dispensaries to operate in Dolton? And then the other question that I have is, once those companies are in place, dispensaries are in place, will there be a limit on how much a consumer can come in and purchase at one time? That type of thing.
Okay.
Let me take the first question. The state law on what they call the grow facilities or the cultivation facilities, for the farms, for lack of a better word, there is provision in the state law for minority participation there. In terms of what we're calling the dispensaries, it's the 7-Eleven you're talking about, right? The retail facilities. At the local level, we don't have the ability to dictate race. It's a retail business where free markets gotta come in. What we can do in terms of regulation under our local home rule is potentially limit the amount that can be purchased, that sort of thing. So the ability to prevent, over purchase is something that we could do, but I think as time goes by, if I want to buy 3 half-gallons of Tito's, the guy at the liquor store is not going to say no. I think we've always got to be sensitive to the free market aspect of it. Let me just back up on one thing on the casino too. Remember, the casino is a long play, meaning if somebody got a casino license in 3 months, you're probably talking 1.5 years between financing, construction, and the like. So one of those facilities wouldn't really be generating any money next year in 20, maybe part of 21. So the promise of revenue sharing, while it's real for us, it's not an immediate promise. We've just got to, we've got to understand the realities of construction.
Plus, John, Ms. Creighton, you talked about if we opted out, do we still get the revenue from the casino? Yeah, we will get the revenue from the casino, but what we're talking about is that every South suburban community that is not the host for that casino will have a smaller portion of the pie. For example, how many South suburban communities realistically would share the profit sharing of the casino?
Probably 20 to 25 in the 5 townships.
Okay, 20 to 25 in the 5 townships. So that means we have to take a pie and cut it up to 25 pieces. And that's what each one of those communities will get. And realistically, it could be 2%, 1 to 2% of the revenue sharing. So that would, of course, help us get some money, but it would not take the bigger portion of the burden that we have right now on our backs in regards to being financially sound and be able to fund some of the things that we need for infrastructure and other things.
In this cannabis law, where are there limits to where people can actually smoke?
It is. There's a section in the cannabis law. I forgot what the consumer consumption. So from what I understand is it has to be a freestanding building, which would actually be like a cigar shop, and there's hookah. If you're familiar with hookah legislation, and it has to be in a freestanding building with no alcohol. You cannot sell alcohol. Now you can have it and from what I understand, the consumer consumption for the marijuana, you can have the freestanding building. You can't sell any alcohol, but they can bring alcohol in there, like a bring your own bottle. So
then it's limited only to these freestanding buildings. They can't buy it, take it home, and.
Oh yeah, you can buy it and take it home. And I think
where do they have to smoke it at home? Inside?
Yeah, I mean wherever you want to smoke, the bathroom, while you take.
But it can't be outside.
Whatever you want to do, it can be outside. It could be on your. From what I understand right now, and there's going to be some more clarification on this as the legislation takes place. But I think it's 30 grams for personal consumption that you can actually have in your possession. Now, boy, I forgot what I was going to say.
Well, whether it's legal weed or not, for example, you can't be smoking in the car. Right. So if a police officer pulls you for a traffic and the smell is of marijuana, that's a potential violation, regardless of whether you bought it at a state licensed store or from the guy, from Ted's neighbor. So all of that will stay the same. And one of the things that when I've talked to police officers is that the presence of marijuana in a car is kind of a probable cause door opener. That allows the search of the vehicle, and then you find weapons or more dangerous drugs. That stays the same because there can be no public consumption on the right. You can't walk in the street, and you can't smoke in the car.
Now, it's just like having open alcohol in the car. And also, if you get stopped by the police because you're weaving, it's just like being intoxicated. I think the statute says now, under the influence of alcohol or contraband, controlled substance. Now, Attorney Murphy mentioned the fact that if the police stops you, smells it, it's probable cause to go to the next step. All right, sir, get out of the car.
Right.
Probable search of the car, maybe to bring the dog in to sniff the car, see if there's any other contraband in the car. I know when I made traffic stops, it's a long time ago, but you know, no, it ain't that far back. It's not that far back. I owe you one, John. I owe you one. Yeah, moonshine. Yeah, the moonshine, right. But, you know, stop a car. The reason I stopped them was for the speeding, and then when you got them pulled over and they smoking weed in the car, and they rolled the window down about like this. Yeah, what did I do? Now, you could still smell the weed through that big of a crack, but they think you can't. Because at that point, your judgment's impaired. But when we were in the academy, and I actually learned this before I got in the academy, but in the academy, they burn weed for you so you'll know what it smells like on the traffic stop if you pull a traffic stop. You know, some of the illegal marijuana that was confiscated. But getting back to the dispensaries, there's a part of the legislation that goes into effect January 1 that for the first 6 months, the only people that can open up a dispensary are the medical marijuana facilities. So they've already been through the testing and all the legislation, how to set it up and everything. So they're going to actually get first crack on opening up these dispensaries. In regards to the African American community being involved, there is part of legislation that was passed. The thing is that, and what we will be doing if we choose to allow a dispensary or cultivation to come in, we'll do extensive backgrounds. We want to find out where the money's coming from, if it's good money, and we want to make sure that we're not accepting a company or a person that is trying to launder the money. So there will be extensive backgrounds done on that, but and we will put legislation in place. For instance, we don't want it across the street from a school. Right. You know, we're going to take a look at. I know in the city of Chicago they have, I think it's 1,000 feet from the school in regards to gun legislation. You can't have a gun within 1,000 feet. You can't bring guns into schools and things like that. So what I want to do is, and I'm going to go out to Denver. I'm going to go through their whole thing. I've had several conversations with the mayor that I met at other conferences, but I want to try to find out what works and what does not work. And I'll bring that information back, share with the board. And then before we take a vote on it, I want to have an open forum with the community and get some ideas from the community, whether they want it or whether they don't want it. And you know, share with the community the benefits, and then some of the residents can share their pros and cons about legalizing it here. So, and we're going to have to do that between now and December 30th to put something in place going forward with this. Go ahead.
Good morning. I have a question. I know you said that it's supposed to be a freestanding building, and I'm glad that the clerk is here. Maybe she can answer this. What type of business license is issued? And I think Ms. Creighton might have was going that way with the Smokies issue. When you said that they can consume the marijuana, I guess, sitting inside the facility. So what type of business license actually is it named on the business license?
As far as I know right now, and Madam Clerk, you can help
No.
here if we have, there's no business license that we have in place right now that would coincide with the dispensary and or the cultivation. So, yeah, so going forward, we would have to prepare, and John will help us in this, and one of the things that looking at other communities that have it already in other states, we would have to go forward, create the ordinance, create a license for the consumer consumption, for the dispensary, for the cultivation, and then we need to determine how much money we want to charge for those licenses.
Okay.
So now, if the state is charging $100,000 for a license, we may want to charge $10,000.
Okay.
That will be a continued resource for us, because if we're looking to bring somebody in, we want somebody that's going to be here on the longevity side, and we can put projections in to amount of money that we can actually bring in for licensing and enforcement and compliance from inspections and things like that. And that would help us project an amount of revenue going forward that we can actually rely on.
Okay.
And taxes, right.
Okay, so it will only be for marijuana dispensary, like they wouldn't be able to sell anything else in that facility. That's what I'm asking.
Part of the consumer consumption part, if they're applying for the consumer consumption part, we charge them for the licensing for that. We charge them for the inspection. If they're going to be part of a restaurant, we would charge them the restaurant license. If the food sales, we'll charge them the food sale license, and any other accessory type license that would apply, Madam Clerk, to that facility.
I guess that's what I'm not. Okay, an example would be someone wants to open up a dispensary.
Okay.
But and they can consume the marijuana inside or whatever.
They cannot. The dispensary is only for sales. You buy
Only
it
for sales.
and you go.
And you go.
Now,
okay,
if that
that's what the
dispensary
question was.
had a building next door for consumer consumption,
Okay.
they can take it out of the place where they bought it retail and go into the place
So
next
they're
door.
two separate entities.
Two
That's my
separate
question.
Right.
All
Two
right,
separate entities.
that's what I wanted to know.
Yeah.
But I had a citizen's question prior to this whole dispensary came up. Can I ask it now, or do
Go
I
ahead.
have to wait?
Go ahead.
Okay, so I stay on Evans Court. You know where I
Right.
stay at. Okay, so over the summer, all of these events that's been taking place on 149th and Greenwood.
Yeah.
My concern is that the limited parking in the Melanie's Fitness Center, and that these people are overflowing in front of our houses and
Right.
our streets.
Yeah.
The first event that happened, I think it was District 205 event or whatever.
Right.
I came home, and since I stay in a cul-de-sac and everybody act like they don't know how to really park in the cul-de-sac, I
Right.
couldn't even get in my garage.
Yeah.
Is this going to be something ongoing that we're going to continue to have events there? Because there's no parking, and it's not really a place where you would be having all these type of events.
Okay. It is going to continue. Now, if there's a violation that occurred, that somebody blocks your driveway, call the police, they will get ticketed and or possibly towed if they can't find the vehicle owner. It's just like at the Dolton Park. There's not enough parking for the events that go on in the park on a weekly, and they overflow. So that parcel there of land, the railroad used to run through there, whether you know it or not. The railroad used to run through there, and now it's all we do is maintain it. We cut the grass all the time and everything. So I thought that, hey, let's try to use this land for something. So what we did is we knew it was limited parking. Some of that industrial area over there was all filled. There was over 3,000 people there. We did not anticipate that many people, and they had somewhere to park. But what I did do is have Public Works out there at the end of the event to clean up, and then early the next morning, which was Sunday morning, to make sure to go through the neighborhoods and make sure everything was clean. So even the events at the park, sometimes they have people that are inconsiderate of other people's property, and they park in the driveways, call the police, and the police will ticket it and or tow the vehicles. So sorry to inconvenience you.
Okay, I was gonna ask, like, is there some type of agreement that y'all can get with Food for Less? So, in that parking section where they can, I mean, at least it'll be 2 parking spots. It'll be Melanie's and that part of Food for Less. It was just that, 1, are we getting funds for these events? And 2, that I already get the overflow from the park, and now I'm getting something that's like not even a half a block from me. So I just wanted to, know if this is going to be ongoing.
If you had came down Greenwood, you'll see the Food for Less was all filled. Food for Less was all filled. We actually had cars parked on the parkway there. Melanie was filled. Like I said, we didn't anticipate 3,000 people, but the only thing I can say is that these are going to be sporadic events. They're not going to happen every weekend like they happen at the park. So we're just trying to, have some more activity, some good events in the village of Dolton, and we have to have places to do it. What I had planned on trying to get this summer, which didn't happen, I want to put some volleyball courts there, right in the middle. These will be sand courts like that are down on the beaches in the city of Chicago, and where we can get some ladies and or men volleyball teams. So that will happen next summer also. Yes, Mr. Creighton. Pardon me? No, it's not going to be fenced in. No. Mr. Creighton? Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, I just wanted to know, did you tell us a time frame you had for getting the fully staffed police force?
Well, there is no time frame right now. One of the things we have to do, the board gave authority for the first time last year to hire 5 police officers. Unfortunately, that did not happen. And we're in the process of doing that right now. I've asked the board for us to hire 15 additional police officers, which would give us at least 20 police officers. Now, in doing that, we have to fund those police officers that we bring on. So what I'd like to do is, and I've talked to Attorney Murphy in regards to us putting a possible early retirement plan together to get some of the older police officers that are making higher salaries to retire early, and maybe we can bring in a police officer and a half for one of the police officers that are making a higher salary. So 2 police officers, if we get them to retire, we can actually bring in 3 new ones at a lower salary and get our police department up. So we're in the process right now trying to we have to negotiate with the unions and to put an early retirement plan in place so we can actually pay for new police officers that are coming on. And hopefully, and I'm not saying for sure, hopefully we can get some federal assistance to help supplement bring on new police officers and or pay for overtime. Now it's going to be challenging to do that, but I've contacted everybody, and if we get everybody to put some pressure on board, somebody's going to listen to us and help us here. So.
Mr. Mayor, the marijuana issue is a curiosity to me. They purchase it from a dispensary. They take it home. Is the yard, porch, driveway considered home?
That's their property. That's their property. I think personal consumption, I think you can have 30 grams for personal consumption. Yes, sir.
So what you told me a few minutes ago about it had to be inside.
I didn't say it had to be inside.
You said they could smoke it in their bathroom. You didn't say they could smoke it on their porch.
I said that's one of the places they could smoke it.
Because, where I used to work, if I came in and got drug tested, I could be fired because the guy next door is smoking marijuana.
Come on now. You're not
Oh, come on.
Come on. You're not going to.
I could because I've got it in my system.
You're not going to have it in your system. Believe me. Believe me, if the guy next door is smoking it, you got to be right under him to have it in your system. He got to be blowing it in your face.
Come on. Why not?
You have to be in very close proximity. That's the word I want to use.
Well, proximity is what? 10 feet? 15 feet?
No, that depends on the potency of the marijuana. The THC.
You're kidding yourself.
Hey, let me tell you something. I made plenty of drug arrests. I've tested many violators that were positive, had positive results. And I'm going to say this. Unless you're in a highly concentrated area, in a small area, it's not going to be in your system. You have to be in the same room, and they got to be smoking for a while, and it has to be dense. That smoke has to be dense in there for it to actually be in your system. But you being in your house, him being in his house, you're going to be fine at work. Now, the thing also is that by legalizing marijuana or cannabis for personal consumption does not supersede you having a drug screen at your job. If the policy at your job says you cannot be intoxicated, you cannot have marijuana in your system, regardless of whether it's legal for personal consumption, if you want to stay employed, you have to follow that policy of your employer. You have to follow that policy of your employer. So say, hey, I'm in my house, cops come in my house, hey, I'm legal smoking it, but you go to work and get drug tested the next day, you're going to get fired. Because you have to follow their policy. Jill?
I forgot what it is. How is transporting? Like, you can't have open liquor in a car.
Right.
Okay, now, obviously, if there's the smell of marijuana, they know that it's been smoked in the car.
Right.
But what if someone's sitting on their porch and smoking, get in their car and drive? They're going to smell like marijuana. I think the added burden to the police, how do they feel about that? How do our police officers feel about the added burden?
Well, you know, hopefully you'll have a police officer. Now, the police know what the law is, but hopefully you'll have a police officer that has, and police have a broad range of discretion. Now, they may stop you, they can be do 75 miles an hour, stop you today and say, hey, listen, I'm out here every day, and I used to use this line all the time too. You know, I used to give a lot of warnings, but I used to give a lot of tickets. And I just say, listen, I'm out here every day. I'm gonna give you a pass today, but the next time I stop you for the same violation, it's not gonna be any talking, it's gonna be some writing. And people appreciate that. So if you get a habitual offender, they're gonna do what they wanna do anyway. So you have a breathalyzer with alcohol, and now, well, you give them the field sobriety test. Now, a person on alcohol that could be intoxicated, on that field sobriety test, they're gonna ask you walk the line, they're gonna ask you put your finger to your nose, they're gonna ask you stand on one foot, close your eyes. So they look at balance. Now, depending on how much that you smoked and THC, and if you're smoking blunts and all this other stuff, they're gonna put you through the field sobriety test that they feel is adequate or that will suffice for your competency or your impaired judgment. And now they do field sobriety test. They do field testing for cocaine. They got the little sample bags. Police officers take them. And I think there's a machine, there wasn't not one when I was working, where they could actually blow in and get some type of consumption, determine some type of consumption that you've had. So, and part of the probable cause for the field sobriety test is that you roll your window. First of all, in a traffic violation, you probably went over the line, you're speeding, you're sitting at the stoplight, sleep, you know, you run a stop sign. So that's probable cause for the stop. So then you roll your window down, and we all know what beer smells like if you had a lot of beer, or if you had a lot of alcohol, what that smells like. Bloodshot eyes, you know, slurred speech. So these are all probable causes to go the next step further to take, you know, for field sobriety tests and whether you're gonna lock you up or not. Yes.
You know how you said you're going to have the dispensary so far from a school? What about the houses that are right across the street? If you got people smoking on their porch, I mean, how is that going to work?
Well, you look at it right now. You got people smoking on their porch now, and it's not legal. You know? So, and like I said, I don't care how much legislation that you put in, how many laws that you put in, people are not, you're not going to get 100% compliance. You know, and just because that dispensary is across the street from your house, and hopefully they will not be across the street from your house, it may, then that doesn't, if they're on their property and they're smoking on their front porch, I would take the,
I mean, I can call the police now.
Yeah.
But once it's legal and you're saying they can smoke on their porch, how am I going to be able to call the police and say my next door neighbor is smoking weed?
I'm not, I didn't make the legislation. Your state's legislature.
I know you didn't.
So
I'm just saying, right now, if they do it, I can call the police right now and say, you know, my neighbor is smoking weed on their porch.
And you know what happens? When they see the police coming down the street, they're going to toss it, or they're going to put it out.
Well, that's why I got a ring, so I can take a picture.
Yeah. So it's not going to be 100% compliance just because the legislation was passed, you know. And there's going to be some, you know, the people that have approached me in regards to dispensary, they want to be on the main drag. They want to be on Sibley Boulevard where it's highly visible, and people would be able to, oh, hey, there's a dispensary there. We're going to go in there. So. And that would be in the commercial area. And like John said, Attorney Murphy said, part of the legislation that we put in place would be zoning. So I'm quite sure if this board decides to go forward with it, we're taking consideration where those places are going to actually come in. Now, I wanted to address what you mentioned, the fact about the United Center and the Regal. The Regal Theater was private investors. And I think there was, after it moved off of 47th Street to 79th Street, there was some opposition from the people from the residents that lived around there about bringing it there. One of it was because of the parking. Now, and there was, I think there was some government assistance, I'm not sure to the degree. And also, one of the things when you want businesses to come in and for them to survive is that you have to have customer participation. Now, if you take a look and in the comparison you made, I think it's totally different, apples and oranges, you know. Now, if you talk about the Bulls playing the LA Lakers, I think you're gonna have some customer participation, you know. And if you're talking about bringing in Jay-Z or Luther Vandross to the Regal Theater, you're going to have different customer participation. So, and part of it is congestion. Now, yeah, I love Luther, but it's 7:30, coming to the intersection of 79th and South Chicago and Stony Island and trying to find parking, and the tickets are $150. I think I may just pass on Luther until he gets to the United Center. You know? So, and one of the things that people forget, say, Mayor, why don't you bring in some restaurants, and why don't you bring in this, and why don't you bring in that? First of all, when you got people on Facebook and people going on the media and talking about, don't go to Dolton, you liable to get shot, and don't go to the carnival, and the mayor's gonna get you shot out there if you go out there. So I had a couple of residents say, hey, Mayor, what you doing about this crime? You know, how you gonna handle this? You know, it's unsafe in Dolton. I said, well, where do you work? I work in Chicago. I said, well, did you stop going to work? Because they've been averaging 10 murders a weekend and 70 shootings or 40 shootings. Did you stop going? Well, that's different. How is it different? I'm going to say this, is that our crime has been down the last couple of years. And I'm going to say that I think we've been unfairly judged by the media. And if it wasn't in the media, you wouldn't even know anything about it. But let me tell you, there's some of these other communities that have murders and burglaries and robberies and rapes and carjackings. You don't hear about it. But since I got some haters, they call if a firecracker go off. And they damaging and hurting this community. They're putting the wrong type of impression on this community. Now, how many of you are in here close to retirement? You can't move, can't afford to move. We have to, and we're doing a lot of good things in the community. Those are things we should be noted for instead of some of the bad things that happen. Because some of the bad things happen in every community. You just don't hear about it. And I'm really tired about people saying, why can't we be like so-and-so? Why can't we be like so-and-so? Well, we can be like so-and-so if we get funded, if we get rid of some of the haters, and if we're not unfairly judged. And I think we've been unfairly judged. It just so happened that some of the things that happen in a close proximity of one another, 2.5 weeks. And it just so happened that 3 of those victims were females. And just so happened that one of them was a teenager. That's what keep news people their jobs. You know, they say it's news. It should say at 5 o'clock, bad news is coming on. Because that's what they give you. And that's what people are honed into. How many of you watch police shows? We want the action. We want to see the shooting. We want to see the car chases, helicopters flying over, catching them. And then we want to see the police chasing them and jump on them and put them on the ground, put them in handcuffs. And in 60 minutes, they go to trial and they get 20 years in prison. Don't happen like that. Don't happen like that. So, please, these two, the young lady that was unfortunately shot and murdered on Sibley Boulevard, it was, that offender is in custody without bond. And partly because of all the resident participation. Like some people say, well, I saw it, but I'm not gonna say nothing. I'm not gonna say nothing. And then if their house gets broken into, you mean nobody saw it? Huh? Nobody gonna come forward? That's how a lot of crimes are solved, by community participation and assisting the police. Now on Sibley Boulevard, there were several cameras, several ring bell cameras there that follow what happened, that follow the offender, around the corner, another camera, and was a lot, along with the residence assistant, and there was a lot. First night, boom, they were out there, assistant police providing information, and with the police then putting the puzzle together, because it's about putting the puzzle together. The sequence of events, witness participation, the gathering of the evidence, and then presenting it to the prosecutor in the issue of a warrant. So the warrant was issued and the offender was picked up in Chicago. Now, there's some other leads in regards to the other arrests, and I'm gonna let the chief elaborate on some of that, to the other crimes that have happened, and the police are on top of it. And I wanna send, we mentioned the fact that our police had made arrests and stuff like that, but I wanna mention the participation and the assistance that we need on when crimes like this. When murders happen, the South Suburban Crime Task Force. The South Suburban Crime Task Force is led by the state police along with officers from other communities, which provides an additional complement of police officers to investigate the crime. Now, if a murder happens like at 1 o'clock, if the victim expires, task force is activated. They may come out at 2 o'clock, 2:30. They may be knocking on your door at 3 o'clock in the morning. They're canvassing. They want to know if anybody have seen something, heard something, and they may wake you up and you may look out, oh shoot, I don't know who that is. 3 o'clock in the morning, I ain't letting them in. But we'll usually have on, usually a police vest, a police identifying thing. So don't think that, hey, and please, answer the door. Even if you tell them that, yeah, I may have heard something or I did not hear anything. It allows them to eliminate the investigation process. We talked to Ms. Smith at 5312. She didn't hear anything. We talked to Ms. Williams at 5315. She was worked midnight. She wasn't there. Now we talked to, Mr. Williams at 5317. Mr. Williams said at about 10:30, I did hear some noise outside. My dog started barking. So I got up and looked. I saw a vehicle out there. I didn't recognize the plates, but it was dark in color. This helps the police, and they're documenting all this. This helps the police put the puzzle together to solve the crime. And you may see, what's the show called? 48 Hours? The first 48? All crimes are not solved in the first 48. But believe me, in that first 48, they gather a lot of evidence that will allow them to start the investigation. And the quicker they start the investigation, the quicker they get the information, it's the better off for them to get the leads and to possibly make the arrest of the offender. So I'm asking everybody, if you see something, say something. And because if you're a victim of a crime, you're going to want somebody to say something about you, about your crime.
Good morning, Mayor, and everybody in the room here. I just want to say about 5 years ago, I used to work in Orland Park at the Carson Perry Scott over there. And when I was there, I became a part of the Orland Park Chamber of Commerce. And what I found out was they have just like Tinley Park has a Orland Park Patch, which is a internet newspaper, if you will, where you find out any and everything that goes on in that town. So when the mayor said we knew about it because it hit the media, a lot of stuff that go on in Orland, you'd be surprised. Tinley Park, Homewood, they don't want it known. They don't want us to know, or they don't want the media to know, because now it's going to bring down potentially their property value. But if you ever want to know what's going on in these towns, start going to the patch. It's Orland Park Patch, TinleyParkPatch.com. You will be surprised what goes on in these suburbs. They keep it real quiet.
And, yes. And you have to remember, our loss is their gain. Because once a person wants to leave Dolton, where's he going to look? He usually doesn't go too far out of where they were born and raised in, or raise their children, because they want the average person, unless you're totally tired of your kids and grandkids and you move to Florida, the average person usually 1 or 2 suburbs over, because they want to be close to their family. So our loss is their gain. So it's important that we correct our image and put a good image of Dolton. And we have some good areas, and we have some good homes, and our home values are up, as you can see by your property taxes going up. So, we have to, we're all in this together, and we have to make sure that we make our community a better place to live and safe.
I want to say one thing. Many of us have the Ring app. I don't know if some of you are familiar with the Ring app, and it lets you know what type of shooting is going on. But lately, people have been putting false information up there.
Right.
Crimes that didn't even happen. And it makes you, when you look at the Ring app, you're like, good Lord, we live in the Wild Wild West, but a lot of it's not true. So I'm working with the police department to create the official profile on the Ring app, so we can put the official up there. We can say what's true and what's not true. But they've been putting, whoever it is, they put a lot of false information up. They said it was a shooting at Food for Less. They said it was a shooting at the carnival. All of it's not true.
And we find that some of those participating that put this stuff up there live in Chicago. So why are you hating on our community? And it's really sad. But we're going to make a difference here. Okay. Hang on one second, Andrew.
And I want to say one more thing also, that I'm learning of talking to other communities. I talk to South Holland people and other communities who have what perceives as a thriving business community. The first thing they say is, you have to have a cohesive government. The business owners got to come in and see a cohesive government. Over the years, we've all have seen the arguing and the fighting that went on the board. So the first and foremost thing is that you got to have a cohesive government, that the board and the mayor find a way to work together. Then the businesses will come, and that's what we're working on.
Yes. one of the things you have to realize is that when a person decides that, well, you know, I'm retired, I got $300,000 in my 401k, or I got 800 credit, and they're gonna say, I want to open up a business now. I've retired early, I'm 50 years old. I put 30 years on my job. I retired early. Now, do I want to take my retirement money and make an investment to go in business? And if I want to retake my retirement money, or even if I don't have retirement money, my credit score is good enough for me to get $150,000. Where do I want to take that $150,000? Where's the most likelihood when I invest that money? In these new businesses, they go out within. I don't care how much money you put in them. Some of these businesses go out of business within, you know, 1 to 3 to 5 years after they get in business, whether they're undercapitalized, whether there's no customer participation, whether they don't know what they're doing. Oh, I like to cook. I'm opening up a restaurant. Only 2 restaurants out of every 100 survive. Out of every 100 survive. They think that all cooking is the only thing, you know, but it's getting customers, it's bookkeeping, it's 15-hour days, going to get your supplies. So there's a lot of variances that happen to get people out of business. So when you talk about, Mayor, why don't you bring this in, why don't you bring that in? Part of it's image, part of it is finding a person that's financed, and if there's an existing business, they can come in and rehab it for their modifications for whatever business they got. And when you talk about bringing in new construction, bringing in a business with new construction, you might as well look at $1.5 million, $2 million. By the time you do the build out, we've got land that the village owns, and you know, I've been approached, hey, why don't we sell that? Some of it we can sell, but some of this land, especially downtown, like to have the revitalization of downtown. I want to give it to somebody. If somebody's gonna come in and make $1 million investment, $500,000 investment, give it to them, because nothing's happening there except the weeds growing, which if we have to cut. And every time we can put something in place, that means it lessens our burden of maintaining it. Public Works don't have to go out there and cut it. Andrew, you had a comment?
Yeah, just real quick. I know the mayor stated that partially all of the information, the wrong information, are coming from people from Chicago. I'm gonna bring this back home to Dolton. Check our own house. Anytime we got former board members calling the media 3 o'clock in the morning, giving them misinformation, then got current board members giving them misinformation too. We gotta check our own home. And that starts at home with these board members. You Facebook screaming live with the people, families on Facebook Live. The media don't have that until they look at your Facebook Live, and then they get it. And that's coming from our former board members and our current board members. So until we check home first, then we can check outside.
Okay, John, I just want you to comment on what the mayor's duties are. Since there's a misconception, and what we actually do behind the scenes.
The mayor is the chief executive officer of the village, no different than the governor is the chief executive of the state. What the mayor does so much behind the scenes is to maintain the office, but more importantly, be a promoter and a cheerleader for the village. People look, whether it's because all of us came from city of Chicago, people look and they want to see a strong mayor in charge of the village, and they want to know that when a mayor promises something, he can deliver it. I know that's one of the mayor's frustrations from prior years, where every time he turned around he was frustrated or blockaded by a group. But the mayor is in charge of the operation of the village. The buck stops with him, and he is, and in every town, the mayor is the face of the municipality.
Thank you. You know, sometimes I get, what you doing in Washington? What you doing in Springfield? Why are you spending our money going here and there? Well, I'm proud of, I don't necessarily like making the trips and staying over and things like that, but I'm proud of my my track record in regards to those trips. I went to Washington several times when President Obama was in office. We were able to have dialogue with the Transportation Secretary. I went to Washington to meet with Senator Durbin, and Senator Durbin has been here, and meet with Senator Tammy Duckworth, and we brought the agencies here to talk about the congestion of the trains that are stopping our residents. We got 75 different railroads that run through here on a daily basis. I'm sorry, 7 railroads that run through here on a daily basis, an average of 75 trains. Most of the trains are between 80 and 150 cars, which block a lot of traffic. Well, I'm happy to say that those visits, along with bringing those agencies, has bought us a $19 million grant to make some changes on those railroads, those tracks. And it's all about them hearing you and having a plan and getting the money. Now, we're going to receive about $1.2 million in grant money from the Capitol bill. I had a conversation with Senator Harris last week in regards to getting some additional money, but like all of these towns during the round administrations, a lot of the towns suffered, and a lot of the money, the state assistance money, was not forwarded to us. So I'm always working for you. I'm always trying to make sure that we have a seat in the House. At least if we don't get it, they hear us. And that's the way you get money. That's the way you get money. So thank you, John, for coming out today. I've had some attorneys say, hey, replace John. Why you got a white attorney? Well, I didn't pick John because he was white or black. I picked John because I checked his history. He is one of the finest, or the finest, in municipal government. He represents a multitude of towns, a multitude of black towns. And I'm going to say this, I make very little moves without calling him. And then at least if I make the wrong move, I'm blaming it on John. So anything that may involve litigation, anything that may put us in the potential front of getting sued, whether it's by employees, ex-employees, vendors, or just making the right decision going forward, I always do my research. When I get up on that bench, up that dais up there, believe you me, I've did my research. I don't shoot from the hip. I've did my research. Anything that may put us in a legal situation, I'm calling him. So at least I got somebody else to blame if I make the wrong decision. But and not only that, people say, how much we paying John? We pay him a lot less than what some of these other municipal attorneys charge. I can call John in the morning. A lot of times we talk in the morning, hey, did you see what was in the paper? Did you read this? Did you see this? And we go over stuff, things that may have happened in other towns where they created some liability for them. And then John don't charge me for a 15-minute conversation. Sometimes it winds up being 30 minutes. He gets in his office usually anytime between 7:30, 8 o'clock. The office don't open till 9 o'clock. Calls me on Saturdays. He's here today. He's off today. I said, John, why don't you stop by? I don't know if he's going to bill us for today, but anyway. But he does a lot of things like this. The new trustees came in. He gives a what do you call it, John? The
Newly elected officials presentation.
Yeah, newly elected officials presentation. All our new trustees have been through that, which kind of helps guide them through what they're facing and what they're going to be confronted with. So appreciate you, John. Thanks for coming out today.
Thank you very much. Let me just close by making 2 brief comments. I want to thank the mayor for saying that exactly the way I wrote it. And And second, let me say a little thing about race. I've been the village attorney for Hazel Crest for many, many years. And I was at a town hall or community meeting a few years ago, and one of the residents said, "Hey, Mr. Murphy, how long have you been our village attorney?" And I said, "Well, let me put it this way. When I started representing the village, my hair was black and the town was white." Now you can see what's happened. I consider it, as I said at the beginning, a real honor to represent a village like Dolton where everybody here loves their town. So hang in there and things will improve. Thank you very much.
And not to mention John's school and my school were arch enemies and rivals in football and wrestling. John went to Mount Carmel, and I went to Mendel. So we were always at it. So I don't hold that against him. All right, Chief. Sorry to wake you, Chief, but this is our Chief, Chief Mobley.
Good morning. I won't be before you long. I know there's been a lengthy coffee with the mayor, but just to give you all a little information, we do have crime-free housing in place, but one of the things I'm doing, I'm sending 3 officers, one on each shift, to a class this week. It's a 2-day class for crime-free housing, and it's through the Illinois Law Enforcement Training Standards Board. So that way, if an officer comes on scene and you have a problem with a ongoing problem with the housing or your neighbor, you can let them know, let the supervisor know. They'll do the initial paperwork. We work hand in hand with the housing department. When I go and ask Sharon about an issue, and I say, well, you can email it to me or call me. She said, no, Chief, wait. I'm finna give it to you right now. She give me that information. I reach out to the owner. I give them an update of what's happening and tell them to start their process for the eviction. Now, you know, I think last coffee with the mayor, before that, we had that whole class on the eviction process. It doesn't happen overnight, but we get the ball rolling. And if it's crime-free housing, when they go down to Markham Courthouse or wherever they have to go, and if they see certain cases, maybe they can put a rush on it. That's the first thing. The next few things I'm going to touch on, the mayor covered it or the trustee may have mentioned it, but I want to talk about that neighborhood app. That is absolutely correct that we are being put out there in a negative light, and the media loves negativity, so they gravitate to it. We've been having so much negative publicity put out there that they're not even focusing on Chicago. Just this week alone, it was 3 false incidents. One was that there was armed robbery at the currency exchange, which was not true. If a currency exchange gets robbed in this day and age, you best believe it's an inside job. One of the clerks have something to do with it because they're behind a bulletproof door and a bulletproof glass. That's one thing. I got woke up in the wee hours of the morning saying that a woman had been robbed and stabbed. That was false. And this is coming through the neighborhood app. The news media is watching it, so they're calling me 3 o'clock in the morning. Hey, can you tell me about the woman that got stabbed? I called the police department and talked to the supervisor. Hey, what's going on? Nothing. That's a false complaint. And then I just had another call and emails flooding me talking about 2 people got shot on 146 in LaSalle. I called the department, which I know it didn't happen because I'm one of the first people to get notified myself, and then I notified the mayor of what's going on. 2 people shot on 146 in LaSalle. I called just to verify, no, that hasn't happened. Call Riverdale and see if anything happened. So people are putting things out there, and when they do that, that's making our community look bad. That's one of the reasons businesses don't want to come here, and property value goes down, and people are talking about moving out. One of the things that I want to challenge you all on, if you are Facebook friends or associates with someone and you see somebody putting your community in a negative light, just send a politely post and say, hey, don't do that. You're not helping our community. You're bringing our community down. And that's a sad thing that people are doing, but you know, we're going to curb that. The next thing, as we continue to hire police officers, we're going to be swearing in one on Monday's board meeting at the beginning. And then after that, probably 3 weeks later, another one will be finished with their process. As we increase this police manpower, you will see the police being a little bit more aggressive. That's the only way you're going to curb it. Like the mayor said, it's not to target the citizens that are in compliance, it's to target the people that are not in compliance, the people that are speeding, the people that are blasting music, the people that are running stoplights and stop signs, the people that are throwing trash out, and all that things. Just like when we had the red light, there were a lot of citizens that were against it because you thought, oh, how are you going to target us and give us these tickets? But we informed you all, we put it out there, and once our community know what we have, it's not for you, it's for the influx of traffic that we have coming in by being off a major interstate, and for the people that just don't care. If they just don't care, then we'll hit your pockets. And when you hit them pockets, people, they soon realize, like, oh, they start looking, or they stop, or they wait till it turn green. And I don't even travel on it. I just wait till they turn green and then turn. So you will see more police visibility. You will see more traffic being done. One of the things that people like to do in this day and age is interfere with the police doing their job. We don't have a corrupt department. We just have a high crime value. What I mean by that is that our police department is not known for corrupt police officers, violating people's civil rights or anything like that. So when you see the police doing their job, people want to pull out their cameras and start filming like we're doing something wrong. I've been here since 2016, and we have not had that. So it's one thing in being proactive and want to put information out, but you have to make sure it's not all about being messy, positive. Let's start putting our village out there in a positive light and just start putting everything. That neighborhood app, it's getting on my nerve. While it's informative, it's become a negative energy, a negative output, because you got paramedics in a police car on a traffic accident scene, and people, oh Lord, what done happened now? Somebody shot. Just putting out random stuff. When it could be somebody was an asthma patient, or somebody had a heart attack, and we're assisting to help them, but it's being put out there negative. Last but not least, we touched on the offender being in custody and charged with no bond, and we wrapped that investigation up in less than a month. There are a lot of towns, including Chicago, that have cases that's ongoing for years, or that's called cold cases, where they're sitting up on the shelf unless some new evidence come forth. Like I said, our detective division, along with the assistant agencies that come out here and supplement when we have homicides, bar none, we got an 85 to 80 percentile of solving these crimes. And I want you all to give yourself a hand, because in these last few incidents, especially the one on Sibley, you all are mainly responsible for helping us solve that crime. It was an influx of people coming out saying I had videos while we were on the crime scene. We took their name, their number, got investigators to go out and get that video and so forth. If you have a camera, be it the neighborhood, the Ring, or one that you purchased, and you hear something goes on, review your cameras, and if it's in your area, review your cameras and see if it picked up anything. If you want us to come, but you don't want anybody knowing that the police came, give a call, ask to speak to a supervisor. We could send an officer over there in plain clothes and an unmarked car. We have some vehicles that you wouldn't know that's police vehicles. We can come and visit you like a normal relative or anything, get what we need, and let you be on your way. I understand that sometimes that neighbor might be right next door to you or right across from you, and you don't want any retaliation. So I'm just putting that out there, that we need your help, and you all have been doing a good job, but we need, most of the people that come to these events, they're not the problem. You all are supporting the community, but we need to, all of us in here, we need to put the light on these negative energy people and put the pressure on them. Like Trustee Holmes said, some are elected officials, past and present, and that's not right. One of the things that I've never been able to understand, and I could never be a politician, is that how can you put your own town that you represent and live in a negative light? That's mind-blowing. I will never, ever understand that. If I'm going to put something out, it's going to always be positive so businesses can start looking and be like, hey, Dolton doing some good things. Oh, they doing this, that, and the other. Now they want to come talk to the board. They want to come talk to the mayor. But that's mind-blowing. But it's saddening and it's disgraceful. And, you know, when you come on a police crime scene, I'm letting you know that, be it elected official, stay behind my crime scene. My officers and supervisors have the right to lock you up for impeding and on an active crime scene. That it's saddening that a family is getting notified through Facebook rather than us giving them a call or sending detectives out. That's sad. Who wants to know that their child has been gunned down by, whether it was purposely or accidental, by Facebook? This social media stuff has gotten out of control. And I just want you all to realize, don't believe everything you hear, don't believe everything you see, and we're getting better. We're definitely getting better, and I'll take your question now.
Chief, to the extent that you can answer this, you say you wrapped up the crime with the 18-year-old being charged, and let me just tell you, this has changed everything that me and my wife do in terms of coming in and out of the house. Is this just a case of a kid just running around shooting, to the extent that you can answer that? If you can't, you know.
Not just running around shooting. It was two individuals shooting back and forth. So she just happened to catch a stray round. Bullets have no eyes. And one of the things, that could have been any one of us in here. That could have been me on my way to work.
Right after my wife came in from church, you know, she go to church right behind our house at 1130 East 154. 10 minutes after she got in the house, it was 5 shots going off on the corner of 154th and Woodlawn. I think that's South Holland, because I had to get a delay when I called the police. Oh, hold on, let me call South Holland. I'm like, what? You know, and I actually saw the car. He was driving zigzag from off 154th, and he went into where those little lions are at, and he was just shooting. I don't know whether they were shooting at each other, but Holmes was out there. He came out there. It took them an hour to get out there.
Right. Well, just like the mayor said, the trustee said, it's a lot going on, and it's just not Dolton. We're just being put out there. We had this last we had a homicide on what was that? Labor Day. An hour later, Calumet City had one. 2 hours after that, Riverdale had one. A couple of days later, Calumet City had another one. Riverdale had another one where a young lady had got shot and was burned. You don't know that. Why? Why is it that you don't know that? But we put it out there, and that's a problem. So you all need to put the pressure, or if you see that on social media, put the pressure on these people that's putting back that we need to take back, and we will take back our town, and we are going to curb all this high crime volume. They're gonna run out of Dolton. They're gonna run out of Dolton, and I promise you that.
Thank you, Chief. Jerome, you didn't chase them and get their license plates? Believe me, our community is not the only community suffering, but it seems like our community is the only one targeted for the media. So we have a safe community, and the troublemakers, we're gonna address them and get them out of here. We had an incident on 151st and Evers. This young lady lives there. We put up additional lighting. We cut down trees. We know the problem area. We're going to address it, and we have police there on every shift. Some of the areas where we had shooting in going back 4 years ago, 5 years ago, where there's been repeat incidents, we went in and cut trees back. We put higher wattage bulbs in, lighting in, and it has curtailed those problems. And we're going to curtail this problem too. Police was in that area doing what they do, and was able to identify a subject that was wanted on a warrant and make an arrest. So we're gonna make this community safe, and we're gonna get the police officers to on board to make that happen.
Oh, Mayor, one other thing. I just wanted to let you all know that the murder of the young lady on King Drive in the front outside of the lounge, we have an arrest warrant for that suspect. So now it's just a matter of hunting that person down and getting him charged and brought before. And then we're still doing ongoing investigations for the 16-year-old. One of the things is that the individual that was the target, trying to bring him in because he knows who was shooting at him, because that wasn't his first encounter with them. So we're very optimistic and positive on the leads that we have in all our cases with these three ladies. And I'm looking forward to the day where we'll be able to say we solved all three of these homicides that happened back to back.
And not just the ladies. If we have a male murder victim too, we work just as hard, you know. So just to clear that up. You have a question, ma'am?
I had a couple of things that I wanted to say. One, first of all, Mayor, I wanted to commend you on moving expeditiously in the Moonlight store with those big blocks that are out there. That you cannot park there with those big chunks. Are they all concrete? Yes, wonderful, just wonderful. Also, I wanted to talk with the police chief. The home that's at of that activity.
Those type. We'd rather have you call, speak with the police chief or police in confidence on some areas, because we don't want to put yourself in jeopardy. You follow me? So this is going to be viewed by a lot of people. So if you have incidents or you have trouble houses, speak to the police in confidence. And believe me, this is not like, let me say, Law and Order or CPD. It don't all get solved in 60 minutes. So when you talk about criminal activity in certain places, they're usually long-term investigations, and it takes time to make sure that happens. So just talk to the police chief, give them that information, we'll note it and make some stuff happen, okay? The other thing is that some of you may have seen our new cars that we have in the village. We have 6 Fiats, and I know Garrett gave me the consumer report on them. Mayor, don't get those Fiats. So he gave me the consumer reports. And when we went to the Fiats, we looked at the cost, and we looked at how many we can purchase. We got the Fiats for approximately $16,000 each, and versus buying a Taurus, it's going to cost us $35,000 to $36,000. So we were able to get 2 for 1, and we're looking at an average of 500 to 550 miles on 1 tank of gas. With the Crown Vics that we had, we were filling up once or twice a week. So we got 6. 5 of them went to inspections and water meter readers, and we have 1 over at the police department that's fully marked as a police car. Our officer that goes to court, picks up warrants, goes downtown, goes to Joliet or whatever to the crime lab, uses that car. And it saves us a lot of, I don't think they've even filled it up yet in the last 3 weeks, in regards to mileage. And some people, haters, now is the clown gonna get out when they drive up in the Fiat? All the clowns gonna get out? But I've already had a couple of mayors ask me, hey, what you pay for those Fiats? What kind of gas mileage you getting? How much? So we looked at it as a savings aspect in going with the Fiats. Now we also have 6 new Durango police cars, fully equipped. We actually saved close to $12,000 by going to the Durangos from the Tauruses per equipped vehicle. So you will see those vehicles out there, and they're fully equipped with radar, and some of you may get tickets if you're flying down Dorchester over whatever the posted speed limit is on Dorchester. We will be putting out, and we have started putting out additional speed signs. So at Diekman School, we're completely doing that whole block. We were trying to get it done before school started. We weren't able to get it done before school start. Diekman School, we're going to put some test speed bumps there that will be asphalt. So we looked and talked about speed bumps. The ones we were talking about, they would have to be put down every year and then taken up because of the snow plows. All the snowplow drivers will be notified of those test speed bumps in front of Diekman School. And as we go forward, I'd like to put speed bumps in front of all the schools because it will slow the traffic down. And most of the offenders that's flying through there are the parents trying to get to school, the kids there on time. About to run over each other, trying to get the kids there. Don't go by the stop signs, go around the crossing guards. So we want to try to make it a little safer there by installing some stop signs, installing enforcement, where the police will be there, traveling from school to school area during the times of the beginning of schools and end of school, issuing tickets. And it will be to some of the residents because of the unsafe acts that they do trying to get the kids to school and things like that. So anyway, Ted, we're gonna take a couple more questions and we're gonna get out of here. We're gonna start this. Yeah. Come on, Tammy. Yeah, I forgot. Okay.
October the 1st, which is on a Tuesday, CETA will be open at the Village Hall, 14122. CETA will be open that Tuesday for assistance with your lights, gas, and weatherization program will start. Even for foreclosure, pre-foreclosure, information will be there. CETA will be open, Village Hall, downstairs. So if you need any assistance, 9 a.m. So they're going to go 9 to 5. It's going to open Tuesday, October the 1st, but they will do a Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. But the first day of opening is Tuesday, October the 1st.
Yeah.
So CETA will be opening.
And it's going to be downstairs. So, if you need any assistance getting down the stairs, we will try to assist you, but we don't have an elevator. That's something in the future I'd like to get, is an elevator in Village Hall, because we have some space downstairs that we can hold different activities. So Monday, Wednesday, and Friday.
Right. They're going to open 9 to 5, but Tuesday, October the 1st, will be the first day that they open for assistance with your lights, gas, and then weatherization will start.
And, everybody that comes in the building, we ask them to sign in. So don't give the person at the front that's a hard time, I'm not signing in, because we get that sometime. We not looking for you. We just want to make sure that we know everybody that comes into the building.
That's all.
So.
I just want to say this is on a different note, but I'm glad you're standing because it's about you. I live right down here on Dante Avenue, and next to my home is a house that's abandoned, and it's been abandoned for over 10 years. House caught on fire, the house caught on fire. Since then, Dolton has come out, boarded it up, but since then, the rodents have made way into the house. So one day, I'm sitting out, I got my door open, porch locked, so my husband and I are watching TV, and this possum walks past, looks at me through my screen door like, Tanya, what are you going to make for dinner tonight? So at that point, no, it wasn't a raccoon, it was that ugly possum. So what happened was I contacted Tammy, so I want to commend you on her being one of your trustees, because she made it happen. I told her what was going on. There was 2 houses on our block, one on the corner that needs to really be demolished, but the house next to me, it might be salvageable, maybe not. But she made sure that the housing was informed. They came out and reboarded, like where there were holes, and they cut down all that shrubbery around where you couldn't even see the door anymore. It was just like the greenery had took over, that was about to take over the house along with the rodents. So I want to commend you for that, because now I don't have no rodents, no raccoons or possums saying, hey, What was for dinner, Tanya? I don't have that problem anymore. So I just want to commend you on that. So thank you. Thank you.
Well, you know, if you were down south, that possum wouldn't have lasted long enough to look at you. You know that, don't you? So I've seen some possums out in the area too, coyotes, but I've also seen rabbits and stuff too. So, anyway, good, great, Tammy. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yes.
All right. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Okay, Ted has another question back here.
I had an encounter with one of your new black Fiats.
Okay.
Had a big number 300 on the side.
Okay.
I was working outside in my front yard. All of a sudden, the car came over, parked. Young lady got out with a yellow safety vest. And I said, "Yes, can I help you?" And she kind of looked at me and said, "Why are you talking to me?" I said, "Well, you parked in front of my house." She said, "Well, this is a public street. I can park wherever I want." These people who you're hiring should be instructed, if a homeowner comes over and talks to them, they can talk to them civilly.
Who was it? Who was it? You know who it was?
Whoever was driving 300 that morning,
Well,
she acted like she worked for the water department, because that's how you get treated when you go to the water department.
well, we're making that change in the water department. Let me advise you. But if there's two sides to every story. If any one of the employees act inappropriately, we've talked about customer service, a number of them have been to customer service training, then they're gonna be held accountable, along with myself. You know, because every time when I get a complaint like that, they said, "Mayor, your mayor, your person, this for your person." And let me say this, I don't know everything. Do people think I know everything about everything? You know, my sewer stopped up, Mayor. What should I do? Call the plumber. Shit, I don't, shoot. I either call the plumber or I'll go get me some liquid plumber. I don't know everything. You know, the weeds are growing up behind my house, Mayor. You know, who you gonna get to cut it down? So I'm not, I had a life before I was a mayor. I wasn't always mayor. I hope to have one after here. I hope we get out of here alive. But hopefully we put the right people in place that represent this village and represent me well and represent your taxpayer well. But if there's a complaint, our complaints are going to get actively investigated, and if discipline is warranted, it's going to happen. So please, we instituted name tags. I'm going to make sure that the employees have a name tag on it, and they identify themselves if you got a complaint against them. And we're going to investigate both sides. Because sometimes when we make complaints, we tend to favor our side. You know, I don't expect our employees to take any abuse, and I don't expect them to give any. When you work for the public, you got to be a little bit more thick-skinned than the average Joe. You know, because usually the taxpayers get mad. And I'm a taxpayer, and I pay your salary. And they should all know that, and they should all be aware of that. But I always try to say, as an employee, put yourself on the other side of the glass. Because when you're not at work, and whether you live in the village of Dolton or not, when you give a complaint, you expect to be heard, and you expect for it to be investigated. So, you know, Ms. Administrator, we're going to make sure that everybody has identification on them, and we're going to follow up every complaint and to make sure it's a legitimate complaint.